Okay, what is going on? Crazy day. That's what's going on. Another school shooting, huh? Man, like, I just don't even know what to say anymore. It's absolutely crazy. All right. Well, I just got home from work. So I saw the headlines. I have not looked too much at the story. So I guess we'll do a little bit of that on stream and check it out. Oh, I guess I need to put in my earplugs. Doesn't always work the first time. Let's try this again. Okay, where are we at here? All right. So I have not looked much into this. I just know that there was a shooter. I know that it was in Georgia. I know it was a kid, like 14 years old, which is mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing for me. I have two children that are around that age, and wow, I don't even know what to say because, like, I look at my kids and I think like, there's no way that they could ever do something like that, and I look at my kids and I think like that's not something that should ever like go through their mind, right? And then on the other end of it, it's like how do these kids get access to these weapons? Like, there's no way my kids are getting a hold of a gun. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe they can go on the dark web or something, but they're not getting the gun from me. They're not going to access a firearm from my home and then use that to go to school and commit these atrocities. It's mind blowing for me. It really is. Absolutely mind blowing for me. What's up, Janae? What's up, Woke Mike? I put all of the above there just for you, Woke Mike. Just for you. I put all of the above. So yeah, like fucking insane. I'm gonna watch a little bit about it to start the show. I just want to be up and up on all this. And you guys let me know the poll. Let me know who do you hold accountable for this stuff? Because I do. I hold the parents accountable for these things too. A lot of these kids are accessing these weapons from their parents, and it just really goes to show that these parents don't take gun ownership seriously. And I don't know any details of this case, so I'm not speaking specifically to this case. I'm saying in general, with these mass shootings, it seems like the kids seem to always be able to get a hold of these weapons from their parents, and that's mind-boggling to me. I would never leave a firearm where one of my young children could get to it. I mean, forget the fact that you're talking about like other people losing their children because of your negligence. Like, your kid is 12, 13, 14 years old. The prefrontal cortex has not fully formed. They don't need access to firearms. I almost feel like, I don't know if I'm right to say it, but I feel like almost like there should be some type of like exit interview for these parents where it's like they have to sit down and like explain like who they are and what they were thinking to allow access to a firearm for their child. Like, and it's selfish. I want to know from my own point of view to help to determine how like I feel about like, legislation moving forward with these types of things. How a kid could get a hold of this firearm. It's fucking insane. What up, Jeremy? What up, Blap? Anyways, like I said, I just got home, so I know very little about the story. So I'm gonna watch these couple things to catch up on the story. If you guys know anything, let me know. We're not trying to be Tim Pool. We're not trying to be the rest of these dipshits that get on stream and start talking about who did it and like posting the wrong people and all that crazy stuff. There's actually a really funny video for you guys out there. It's called "Tim Pool is the worst guesser on the internet" or something like that, something to that effect. It's because every time something like this happens, Tim Pool jumps on this. He's actually apparently being sued right now because him and a bunch of other right-wing people, when the Dallas shooter happened at that mall, they all posted the name of the wrong person, and that person is now suing them, which is highly appropriate. What's up, Levon? Yeah, I don't disagree with prosecuting him as an adult, Levon, but I think the adult should be prosecuted as well. Like I said, dependent, like it's all dependent on like what did the parents do to try to secure, because I agree that it's the kid made the decision, but I'm not going to make that decision easy for my children. Like, they're never going to be able to access a firearm in my home. If they're going to get a hold of a firearm, it's not going to be because I put it somewhere or determined that I didn't need to be a responsible gun owner and allow it to be out somewhere where my kid could access it. So I agree that he should be punished as an adult. But I still wonder. I want to know what's going through these parents' heads. Why are these children able to access these firearms? It's mind-blowing to me. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So anyways, let's check out some videos. I don't know anything about it, so let's check it out, and let me catch up before I start talking out of my ass about something I don't know anything about.
A 14-year-old is in custody for today's deadly school shooting in Georgia. Hello, everybody. I'm Hannah.
That's pretty trippy that they got him. I heard earlier, or I read earlier, that he actually was apprehended by like rec officers or something like that. Like super trippy. Like a lot of times this doesn't end with an apprehension. Obviously, most of the time this ends with the person taking their own life.
And I'm Steve Eager. It happened at Appalachian High School.
Shut up, Bob. We're talking about school violence. Jesus Christ, Bob.
The Georgia Bureau
Check the temperature of the room,
says
Bob.
4 people are dead and as many as 9 are wounded. The school has almost 2,000 students. They were spilling out of the building as law enforcement and emergency
It's a pretty big
vehicles
school.
surrounded the school.
2,000 students.
Sean Rabb in our newsroom with the latest. Sean.
That shooter identified by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation director as Colt Gray, the 14-year-old boy surrendering when confronted by 2 school resource officers and arriving
2 school resource officers.
As you said, 4 people dead, 2 students and 2 teachers lost their lives.
Jesus,
one of the
2
wounded
teachers
students
too,
on a stretcher being rushed through the crowd by paramedics to a waiting ambulance. 9 others, 9
Absolutely
total hurt.
insane.
Another injured person treated on the ground in front of the school. Lines snaked through school grounds as anxious parents
that's what happened,
reunite
Nathan.
with their children as SWAT teams continued responding to the campus. Students' spirits clearly broken.
Well, that's like the question, right, Levon? How can kids access drugs? Maybe we should not give them money. But I grew up in the ghetto, dude, and like I definitely had access to firearms when I was in my teens, like for sure. But that's like living in the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? Like, are guns that easy to access for like everyday kids? Like it seems. Okay, let me put it this way. It seems the majority of these children aren't buying guns off the street to commit these mass shootings. It seems like the majority of these shootings are happening from weapons that were either bought for them by their parents or they were their parents' firearms, right? Like, am I wrong about that? I mean, if I'm wrong about that, like, let me know for sure.
Today, law enforcement in Georgia shaken and emotional by the tragedy that's taken lives and so much more.
This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system.
Yeah, we're gonna watch that, Reverend. I got that queued up. I just want to catch up on this. I want to know what's going on.
School system.
I know this isn't a great levity.
My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts.
I don't
for
trust
our
kids
community.
after they move out, Levon.
But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today.
And for the horror at Appalachian High School, that 14-year-old student, Colt Gray, will be tried as an adult, facing 4 counts of murder and other charges. Lots of questions to be answered in the days and weeks to come. This happening just 3 weeks into the new school year.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's just the beginning of the new school year. It's so crazy. One of the things that I really liked about the bipartisan gun legislation that Biden passed, I think it was 2022, it might have been in 21 or maybe 23, but that Biden passed, was that a lot of the money was going to go to mental health. It was going to go to having more counselors available for children and stuff like that. Obviously, somebody that commits a crime of this sort is not in good mental health. So good, that's a great start. I had a podcast interview with Lindsay Prather, who's a congressperson from North Carolina, and I asked her, because she's a former school teacher, what she thought. North Carolina, very big on gun rights. Very, very. I believe they have open carry. I could be wrong about that, but very, very big on gun rights, nonetheless. And she spoke a lot to roles of leadership and having mental health facilities and stuff, or utilities available for young people, was very important.
To Lila, who's 16 years old.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking,
actually
Nathan.
in
Love ain't gonna do any
just
good
this morning,
for
elbow to
14,
elbow,
I believe.
with that shooter.
14, I believe.
Colt
Tia.
Gray, as
What's
he's
up,
been
Tia?
named by the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Lila, let me first start with, how are you? How are you coping?
I'm okay. I'm pushing through it, talking to friends, making sure everybody else is
Like,
okay,
you know what I'm
checking
saying? Like
people
I
around
look
me.
at this young woman here, and I'm like, man, that's like my kid
Can you
right
bring me
there.
back?
You
What
know, like
happened?
that's my kid.
I
Like
just
that's my
remember,
kid's like that. My
like,
kids
the
are
moment
that
it
age.
happened, he was at the door, and I knew they were looking for him already, but he was at the door, and they almost let him in until they backed up, and then he turned away, and that's when you hear like the first rounds of fire.
So he was in class with you, in algebra class. He left. Then he came back, was at the door, and then knocking to be let back in. Why? You told me something about the doors.
Yeah, they lock automatically, so you have to be let in to come back into our classroom. So I think he wanted to come to us.
And that's probably actually a safety feature, right, on the doors. It's crazy because like, when we were kids, like this was not something that we were busy. We were busy hiding under our desks in case an earthquake happened, right? Like that was like, and before us, it was the kids before us were like if a nuke goes off, kids hide under your desk because that was going to help out a lot. Like this is not something that we were worried about. Like now there's like safety features on schools where the doors lock automatically after you close them. Like that has to be because of gun violence. I mean, it could be because of something else, but I mean, I'd imagine that's what it's from.
First.
Come to you first to shoot?
Yes, to shoot us class.
And then he was at the door.
Well,
She
Vaughn, I
went
tell
to
my kids
open
the
the door,
same
and then
thing.
what happened?
She backed away. I think she saw him, or maybe somebody said something, but I'm pretty sure she saw that he had a gun. And so she backed away.
Wow.
So she was about to let him into the class. You think to shoot the students, saw that he had a gun, did not let him in. What happened next?
He turns to the classroom to what would have been my right, and he just starts to shoot. And you hear like about 10 to 15 rounds back to back.
What did you hear?
Jesus.
What did you think was going on in those moments?
As soon as they didn't let him in, you kind of like, I don't know, I already kind of had a feeling it was gonna happen and it was him. But as soon as they didn't let him in, and you hear the gunshots, you kind of like know.
Well, that
You
poor
knew
girl,
that
man.
something very bad was happening next door.
That poor girl.
Did he ever say anything?
No, he never really talked. He was pretty quiet. He wasn't there most times. Either he just didn't come to school or he just would skip class. But even when he would have talked, it was one-word answers or just short statements.
You told me off camera you weren't surprised that he would be the shooter. Why is that?
Just because when you think of like shooters and how they act or things that they do, it's usually the quiet kid, or like that's a stereotype for it to be, and he was the one that fit that description in our class.
Did you ever see the gun, or did the student that go to the door see the gun, describe it to you guys?
No, I haven't talked with her after this. It was all pretty hectic, but I didn't see the gun.
Good on that
Did
teacher,
he
though.
ever have
Good
a
job,
hobby
teacher.
of guns, hunting? Did he ever talk about any of that?
No, he never really talked.
Can you tell me what it was like inside of the classroom when you hear those gunshots go off? How I heard that you helped to keep the other students calm, right?
Yeah, most of when we heard it, most people just dropped to the floor and kind of crawled. And
His kid's like really well spoken for if something like that happens and this girl's speaking like this. Like that's how you got to give this girl props, man. Like she is pretty calm, cool, and collected for something that just happened like that. Like, dude, like all the props to this girl, all the
in
props.
an area piled on top of each other.
Right,
lost
right,
the shoe
yeah.
When they were trying to get to a corner, the teacher turned off the lights, but we all just kind of piled together. And I pushed desks in front of us. I was just telling people oh, push desks in front of you, block
Ricky Bobby.
in front of you, get low, things like that.
And are there any metal
Yeah, very
detectors in the
composed,
school?
yeah.
No, not that I know of.
Did you guys drill for active shooters? We know that some school districts do that.
They were silent drills, so we stayed in our seats. The teachers kept teaching through them. I think it was more for the system of it instead of preparing us.
How quickly, from the moment that you heard the gunshots go off to the hard lockdown alert going on the screens, letting everyone else in the school know that something had gone wrong, how long did that take? Do you recall?
Maybe a couple minutes, but it wasn't instant.
At what point did you know that this was over?
When the cops came in the room and
Yeah, they come
asked
and
us
let
to put our
them all
hands
out.
up, asked us
Yeah.
if we had anything. A little bit after that, they
Jesus.
let us all out. But when it was kind of quiet, you hear cops yelling, but it's kind of quiet. There's no more gunshots, things like that.
What was that communication like with your parents? I mean, all of us have phones nowadays. I spoke with many students texting what they thought might be their last words to their parents. What was that like for you?
I called my mom. I called her and I was like, oh, they're shooting up the school. She thought it was she didn't believe me at first, and I was like, no, they actually are. And I talked to her for a second, and she was like, oh, I'm on my way right now. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go call other people. I text all my friends in the school, out of school, everywhere. And I'm just texting and calling kind of everybody.
And what was that like leaving the school? I saw videos of officers escorting the students with their hands raised. What was that like for you?
It was protocol, obviously, but I was glad it was over. I was glad we were able to leave. I was looking for my friends that
Yeah, bad, man.
were there. I was comforting the ones that had been through a little bit of a harder time.
And then, Lila, what would you say to this student that you were just elbow to elbow with just this morning in algebra class, and now this?
I'm not sure. I want to know why he did it. I think that would be I want to know why.
Lila, thank you so much for your time. I
Crazy.
appreciate it, and the best to you and your family and your community. Thank you for talking to us. Jake?
That is insane, man. To be honest with you, I'm at loss for words for this shit, man. You gotta do something. You gotta do something. Whether it's, put a ton of money into, mental health and, really, push for, better outcomes for young people. You gotta wonder whether, what was this kid's home life like, was he abused? How was his parents? Who were they? This is what I'm saying. This is why I know probably there's plenty of people that are going to shit on me for saying this, but I recognize as a parent if my kid did something like this that I probably need some privacy and some time to deal with what happened. But both my kids are pretty goddamn well behaved children. I've never had to I never had to discipline my children in a way that's physical. That's my kids are very intelligent children. I would be asking me the questions that I would be wanting this kid's parents to answer. And I do feel that it's appropriate that these parents should be looked into. Like I said, I know a lot of people probably gonna shit on me for that. That's okay. That's whatever your opinion is and my opinion. But I'm gonna just say it. I'm going to speak with my chest on that. And that is that it seems like a lot of these kids, their parents seem to almost always have some type of connection to why these kids, like, what was it, the Crumbly parents? Like, they seem to have, like, no remorse for what their kid did. You know, they're the ones who just got sentenced. You know, like, when your kid is going to school, my kids, from my point of view, you have a responsibility to take care of your children so that way they can take care of the people around them, right? Like, mentally, physically, they need to be healthy human beings. And I know that's not going to be a perfect situation for all. You know, mental illness is a thing. Mental health issues are a thing. But if this kid's life was negatively impacted by his parents and he's able to get a hold of a gun in his home, those parents need to be held responsible for that. That's just my opinion. Is it quite always being bullied in supposed bully-free school? But that's what I'm saying, Nathan, is like, I'm always available for my kids. Like, I'm always talking to my kids about bullies and stuff. Like, I'm always, like, the person, like, because when I was a kid, you know, I was in messed up school situations. Like, it's crazy that I went to school in some of the craziest areas and no one got shot. Like, I watched a dude get his face stomped in, like, my first, like, 2 days of high school. This Crip and this Blood got in a fight, and this Blood stomped a Crip's face in. I mean, to the point where he's just drooling all down on his chest and stuff while they're like carrying him out. Like, I saw some pretty crazy stuff. But even then, we didn't have gun violence in the schools. You know, like, people brought guns to school and stuff like that. That happened, but we never had no mass shootings. We never had no crazy stuff like that. And that was back in the day of drive-bys and stuff like that. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like, I don't know. I think that if we're going to solve this type of situation, the parents got to be part of the solution. Like, my kids, you know, they've dealt with people that don't like them. They dealt with people that have said mean things to them. They've dealt with, you know, people, you know, that are physically imposing people that may have tried to intimidate them, but I'm always available to them to talk to them about these things. And I don't just say, if you got a problem, come to me. Like, I'm active about talking to my kids. I'm always, like, trying to be like, how are things going for you? Like, is anybody messing with you? How you feeling? Like, you know, and I'm always like, I'm also proactive to the fact that I know that they're not always going to tell me about things. So I try to keep on them and be like, hey, I just want you guys to know, like, getting through high school can be difficult, you know, like, you and everybody around you is going through all these hormonal changes, all these emotional changes. You have kids that have really bad home lives where they're abused. You're going to have, you know, kids that, like, you know, aren't right mentally because, you know, their parents aren't right mentally. And I'm always like, so, you know, just remember, like high school is just a blip, man. Even if somebody's messing with you during high school, like, you know, it ain't worth making a bad decision. Like get through this, because once you're out of high school, that's when life really begins for you. Like, that's when it's like you have a chance. Yeah, I just think that my kids don't want to talk about their problems, but now as adults they do. That's a crazy thing, right, Levon? Is like my kids would, like, it drives them nuts because I talk a lot, right? And for the first few years, they'd be okay. But as they get older and older, and I continue to, like, harp on it and stay on it and keep creating these conversations, now they're participating in these conversations. Now they hold these conversations with me, you know. And I like I said, like, being a parent ain't an easy job. And there's so many people out there that want to, like, just, like, phone that shit in, or they want to, like, act like it's not their responsibility, you know, like, well, you know, he did it, not me. It is your responsibility, though. It is. Yeah, I like the bipartisan act that Biden pushed through with the mental health stuff. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, R's wife, is I want to know how are these guns stored? Because, like I said, I think that there's this mentality, specifically on the right, but I don't know, maybe there's people on the left as well. I doubt it, but I think there's this specific mentality to people where it's like, you know, like, I can leave guns around my house because, you know what, I'm free to do so, and you can't tell me no different. It's like, no one's trying to tell you to do it for some kind of reason to restrict your freedom. Nobody's trying to restrict your fucking freedom, man. They're just telling you that you shouldn't leave guns out in places where perhaps they can get stolen by criminals. Or perhaps your child who doesn't have a fully formed prefrontal cortex that's getting bullied at school can get a hold of. Like I said, like a kid being bullied at school is already like a bad thing that could be happening. But the worst case scenario is that kid takes it into his own hands because you're a dipshit and you leave your guns where they can access them, right? Like now other people's kids, are going to be affected by your poor decisions. You know, like I said, when I was a kid, it was like drive-bys and stuff like that, and there's always innocent victims, right? Like that was always the crazy thing about a drive-by is like they rarely ever got the person they were trying to shoot, and instead they shot like 6 other people. Like this is the same thing. Like the majority of these times is like just like whatever kid happens to be around. I'm not like trying to like support anybody doing anything for any reason in this area, but I'm just saying, like, there's kids that they ain't bullying the kid. They ain't had nothing to do with this, and they lose their life over you feeling like someone's restricting your freedoms by making you lock up your weapons. Like, it's fucking insane to me. It seems insane to me. All right. Anyways, yeah, you know, like, I've been around guns my whole life. I've shot guns my whole life. Even when I was a kid, I had access to firearms because, like I said, I'm from the ghetto. So, like, you know, like, I grew up around people that had guns for the worst possible reasons to have guns. They weren't hunting. You know what I'm saying? But, like, I always knew to get out of the neighborhood. Like, I couldn't, like, I knew that there were certain decisions that if I made, that was the end for me. Like, that was I was going to be stuck there for the rest of my life. You know, and I had to make the right decisions, and I'm glad that I did because I have like a beautiful family and I have a great life and stuff because I made those decisions. But I would hate to come from the gun violence that I come from, and I've had guns pulled on me. I had a dude almost shoot me in the back of the head. What's called who riding. I had some Mexican dudes that we were walking through the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time of night, and it was like 4 or 5 dudes in a car were who riding. And they jumped out of a car, and the guy went to pull the gun, and when he pulled the gun, he caught it on his belt, and it hit the ground. And me and 2 other friends booked it, jumped a big-ass fence. I've told the story before, so I'm not going to tell it again. But, like, I've had, you know, guns put on me a couple times. Like, I come from gun violence. The last thing I want in my life is to survive the type of shit that I survived just to then have my kid perform that violence on other kids or other people. Like, you know, obviously there's a couple of adults that also passed away, a couple teachers. That's just, to me, it's just like, it's insane. It's avoidable. It doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen. Anyways, what up, Bucket? What up, DJ? DJ, your boys are playing tomorrow, DJ. DJ, I'm going to be rooting for you. For all my Michigan people, first pick in my league, the league I run, I had the 9th pick in the draft. I took Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys. For all my Michigan people out there, I took Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm gonna be rooting for you guys' team. Tomorrow we're gonna be rooting for DJ's team. Let's go Ravens. I want to see the Chiefs go like 3-13 this year. What up, No Vermouth? What's going on? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, football season starts tomorrow. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm glad to get distracted by all the craziness. My Eagles are playing in Brazil on Friday. Some bullshit ass reason I have to now subscribe to the Peacock for like a week before I cut that shit off because that's the only way I can watch the game. But now I gotta worry about my Eagles because they're gonna be in Brazil, dude. I can't have one of my Eagles getting shot. Like, we got a good team this year. I'm trying to see another Super Bowl in my future. So Eagles, stay safe. Don't go outside. Don't go outside in Brazil. Just stay inside. Let's go Eagles, Jeremy. We got to pray for them. Nice. You got you a St. Brown jersey, Dark Cash? Yeah, and not this Sunday, or is there games this Sunday? Yeah, it's this Sunday. This Sunday, I'm going to try and hop on 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and just talk about football a little bit before the games start. So if you guys are around, you guys want to hop on and hang out with me Sunday morning, probably about an hour. If any of you guys play fantasy football, we can talk fantasy football. I've won a lot of championships in my years playing fantasy football. I've done quite well for myself. So if you guys ever want to hop on and just like hear me talk about fantasy football on Sunday morning, feel free to pop in on Sunday morning, probably around 8 or 9. Depends on when my ass can get up in the morning. But for now, let's get back to the politics. We've caught up on the news. My boy Adam Mockler dropped this video. DOJ indicts Trump allies for Russia collusion. I am so interested in finding out what this video is about because I keep seeing stuff about Tim Pool and it seems shady, some of the stuff he's saying. I'm going to say this, allegedly, Tim Pool might be a Russian asset. So I'm going for.
So an actual Russian plant thought that Tucker Carlson's shilling for Russia was even too much. This is crazy. All right, this is a bombshell story in every sense of the word. We just received breaking news that some of the largest right-wing influencers in the conservative media sphere have been being paid off by the Kremlin to spread disinformation online and to...
No way, Lauren Southern? What a strange person to get lumped in there. Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and then Lauren Southern. That is so trippy. You know, some of the things that I see on Twitter, like the Benny Johnson stuff, I can't help but think that these people are doing this stuff on full purpose, that they know they're full of shit. Because some of the stuff they post is so out of this world, so insane, like that I'm like, there's no way they take this stuff seriously. Because then I see them talking, and I'm like, no way this person believes this stuff. But I'll tell you what, for $10 million, allegedly, I bet they'll say some crazy shit.
Promote Donald Trump as the presidential candidate that people should vote for. Now, we've been joking about it for a while, saying that all right-wing influencers are paid by Russia, but now we have an actual CBS News article titled, U.S. says Russia-funded media company that paid right-wing influencers millions for videos. And this is a topic that I'm passionate about, because Russian disinformation...
So the question here is it a company that Russia funded by giving them $10 million that then suckered these dipshits? I'm not making excuses for them either. I'm just saying, is this the link? Is this what's going to be said right here? Is that these dipshits were talked to by some company that offered them money, and they're so willing to sell out the United States of America that they were like, whatever, it's a couple $1 million in my pocket.
Is so insidious, but it's also
what up,
invisible.
Nana?
It's everywhere on social media. They are trying to spread misogyny, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. They are trying to divide everybody in America as much as they can, because think about it. Vladimir Putin only benefits.
Yeah, and if it does make sense, because you catch one of these Tim Pools or these Dave Rubins or these Benny Johnsons, and you tell them, hey, I'll give you a little money, and all you got to do is speak out and say Ukraine's bad. And they're like, well, I do kind of actually agree with that already. So, yeah, I can take it up a notch. I can go to 11, you know? Like, it does make sense, right? That if somebody were to approach these people that already tend to have these, like, points of view of, like, well, yeah, Muslims are trying to bring Sharia law. Muslims, they are extremists. And, you know, somebody comes in and says, well, I'll give you a couple $1 million to just, like, take it up a notch. Like, it does make sense. Like, I don't think you need to take it to the furthest levels with this. I don't think you need to be like, oh, like, these are straight up Russian agents that come and, like, pay off these people and they know they're Russian agents and stuff. I think the simple answer is usually the right answer in these situations. And I bet you money that these people were approached by a company that did, they assumed were some kind of legit American company. And they're like, so what? Yeah, I already said that Ukraine's bad. So, like, I take it up a notch. Who cares? Like, I already believe this stuff. That's what I think is going on right here.
It's from Donald Trump and the right-wing sycophants below him, the influencers and politicians, spreading misinformation and sowing distrust in our institutions, making all of the citizens think that it doesn't matter if you vote.
Yeah, Tucker
everything
Carlson
is
should
rigged.
be on there.
The courts
Yeah.
are rigged. Judge Merchan's daughter is rigged. It sounds familiar, right? This article reads, 2 Russian nationals working for a news network controlled by Vladimir Putin's government funneled millions of dollars to an American media company that paid right-wing influencers for videos pushing narratives favorable to the Kremlin, U.S. prosecutors alleged on Wednesday. And this actually makes me mad because these right-wing influencers you will recognize. We have talked about them many times before, and I would argue that they led directly to millions of Americans being misinformed, and those millions of Americans led to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson waiting months and months and months to give aid to Ukraine.
You want to know the best thing about this too? Is that all of these like people that follow Benny Johnson, all these people that follow Tim Pool, all these people that follow Dave Rubin and Lauren Southern, they're all people that say that they don't watch mainstream media because it's corrupt. All of these people that follow these influencers, and I've been saying this shit since the beginning, they all think they're getting the truth juice, like straight from the source. No, you don't understand. When Fox News or CNN or MSNBC get involved, that's when everything gets corrupted and you don't get to hear the real stories. And I've said like over and over and over again that there's big money in being a contrarian. There's big money in acting like you're not influenced by mainstream media. So like the idea that now you've gone to X or you've gone to Facebook or whatever your social media of choice is, and you're getting the real truth, the straight from the tap, best stuff you can get. These people are doing it for money. That's what they've been doing it for this whole time. Do you think they, no, I was going to say, do you think they do it because they're just true patriots and they want to give everybody the truth? No, that's what these people think. They think Laura Loomer does this shit because Laura Loomer cares about them. They think that Benny Johnson cares about them. They think Tim Pool, David Rubin cares about them. They don't care about you. They're just like Trump, man. They care about money. They like money. This does not surprise me at all.
Therefore, actually killing Ukrainian citizens in the process. So, these people have killed Ukrainian citizens. We have Benny Johnson, one of the worst people possible. First, let me read this tweet.
I see you
Breaking.
tired.
Kremlin agents in the U.S. with millions of Twitter followers were paid $10 million by Russia to spread disinformation and rally support for convicted felon Trump on social media per indictment unsealed by the Department of Justice. Again, a breaking story. Please leave a like, leave a comment.
And if these Trump supporters were real about this shit, if they actually really believe the things that they believe, this would make them mad. Like if you showed me right now, like that Kamala Harris, and mind you, we're still seeing the story, so maybe there's more to come out. So I'm not knocking it yet. But if you were able to show me proof that Biden, that Kamala Harris, that Bernie, whoever is getting paid straight up money to say Russian disinformation, I would be pissed off, man. And these people say like the whole reason they follow these guys is so that way that because they're not corrupted, they don't get paid to lie to me. They're literally getting. You should be very, very mad about this. Very mad about this.
And watch till the end to help boost this in the YouTube algorithm.
What up, ninjas?
Tenet Media is based in Tennessee, and it employs Benny Johnson, the dude who debates people and is just very, very bad faith. Tim Pool, the beanie guy who has interviewed Donald Trump before.
The beanie
This man
guy.
never takes off his beanie. He constantly has it on.
Because he
and
bald.
remember a few minutes ago when I said that these people
Let it
just
free,
exist
brother.
to sow distrust, to make sure that American citizens are confused. This is what Tim Pool's Twitter feed looked like in 2022.
Reverend, you want to know why Matt Walsh isn't on there, dude? Because I'm gonna say it. Don't hate me for this, Reverend. Matt Walsh isn't one of these guys. Matt Walsh is a weird ass dude, but he's like that Jesse on Fire guy that we watched the other day, where it's like on occasion you stumble across one of these dudes that you're like, you're still weird as shit, but you're a little different. He's like you see him online fighting with the other Trump supporters. Like, you see him when Amber Rose came out and Amber Rose was talking, he was like, this is not what we should be for guys. Like, Matt Walsh is the nerdy dude, you know? I think Matt Walsh actually is 100% like into everything that he says. Like, Matt Walsh, there was this really funny one where it was talking about like how to like support other men and like men's depression, increases in suicide rate for men and all this stuff. And Matt Walsh came out and he was like, we're men. We need to be around other men. And I was like, no, dude, you're the last person that no dudes want to be around you, dog. Like, my guy, I'm not inviting you on Sunday to the football games. Like, Matt Walsh don't get to come, even though I bet you Matt Walsh he's like, but I make an amazing souffle. Okay. Like, Matt Walsh is that dude. That's why I don't think Matt Walsh is Russian disinformation. I'm going to go with that. He's a weird dude, but he's weird like in a like side quest kind of weird. Some of them are just weird. Yeah, no, I would say he's a beard. I'd say he's a beard, or he's got a beard. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he probably makes an amazing souffle. He probably shows up to the Eagles fucking Cowboys game. We're all super hyped. And we're like, we're gonna beat the shit out of the Cowboys. And Matt Walsh shows up with his fucking oven mitts on, his apron still on. He's got his souffle. I brought party favors. Who wants some orange juice? Like, that's what I think when I see Matt Walsh, that's what I think about. Yeah, look at these tweets, man. Civil war, civil war, civil war, civil war. And look, like, this is like, these are all from different days. August 1st, July 23rd, an hour ago. June 14th, March 31st, March 20th, October 20th. That's 2022. Dude, these guys are full of shit. They're getting paid to grift, dog.
Or 2020 through 2022. Now,
yeah,
Tim
certain
Pool
dudes
says
want to be around him.
that Democrats are divisive and Democrats so distrust.
Yeah, Bucket, that's what I'm saying.
You are in a civil war.
Hold on. We're going to get back to Adam. Sorry for interrupting you so much, Adam. My bad. What Bucket just said. Like, people were talking about raw milk because all of these people all of a sudden are RFK fans now, and they all want to get healthy, and they all want to start shopping in health food stores now. All of these dipshits are just, like, realizing right now that, like, raw milk's a thing, and they're like, we've got to start drinking raw milk because homogenization is bad for you. And Matt Walsh is like, homogenization is not bad for you guys. It's actually it's really good. Do you guys not understand what homogenization has done for the world? Like, Matt Walsh, I'm telling you, Matt Walsh is that dude where you're like, let's go do some shit. And Matt Walsh is like, well, I don't know, guys. Is it homogenized? If it's not homogenized, guys, I don't want anything to do with it. Thought you said you about making your immune system work. I am. But I don't like to take that many risks, guys. I don't want the avian flu. I mean, I'm with him on that, though. Matt Walsh. I'm with you on that, Matt Walsh.
Democrats are divisive and Democrats so distrust. But he has said, you are in a civil war. Civil war. It's going to escalate to a civil war. He says civil war over and over and over. And it only makes sense that he's being paid by the Kremlin, because what do you think it does to people online when you constantly, over and over, say there's a civil war coming? But the story only gets crazier.
And these are the people that were like, Donald Trump got shot at because of the left-wing rhetoric. It's like, brother, you have a whole goddamn page of tweets going back to like 3 years ago talking about a civil war. I have a feeling that you might have had something to do with your presidential candidate getting shot at. Seems as though.
People like Dave Rubin, who works for the Daily Wire, has been taking money from the Kremlin, and Lauren Southern. Now let's read this article. An indictment unsealed in the Southern District of New York charged Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasvaya,
some
both
Russian-ass names
with
right there.
conspiracy to launder money and conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The indictment came as the Justice Department unveiled sprawling allegations accusing the Russian government of meddling in the 2024 elections.
No shit.
The two defendants worked for RT, a media outlet formerly known as Russia Today that is funded and controlled by the Russian government. So, if we think about it, why do you think people like Tim Pool, people like Lauren Southern, people like Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin have been saying online that we need to stop funding Ukraine? They want to rescind, pull away any military equipment that we're sending overseas, and they promote this isolationist 1939 type view where they want to make sure that we're not helping an ally abroad. And this is a direct result of them being paid by
Seems a little
Russia.
sus.
And then when I go to Trump rallies and I debate these Trump supporters on Russia and they regurgitate this stuff from Tim Pool's podcast,
What up, Tamra?
and I call it Russian disinformation like I have many times, I was actually right. I'm just feeling very vindicated right now. This article reads, a federal indictment unsealed on Wednesday alleges that a Tennessee-based media company, Tenet Media, which played home to several prominent right-leaning online commentators, was secretly a Russian government-backed influence operation. The company is accused of receiving $10 million from employees of RT, a Russian state-backed media company, as part of a scheme to create and distribute content to U.S. audiences with hidden Russian government messaging, according to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Tenet Media worked with American conservative or heterodox media figures including Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Lauren Southern, who variously present themselves as independent journalists, documentarians, and political commentators. They say they are crowd-funded when they're actually being funded by the Kremlin. Not all of them immediately comment on having been publicly linked to a foreign propaganda site, but Johnson soon tweeted,
what did I tell you? Oh, did not pre-watch. I mean, I shouldn't really be that proud because it's not like, I mean, this is the playbook. This is the playbook. We didn't know, guys. We didn't know. But you still knew that you were putting out Russian propaganda. It doesn't matter whether or not you knew that it was being funded by Russians or if you thought it was by conservatives. Whatever it is, you knew that you were putting out pro-Russian propaganda. You don't get to just be like, well, you know, it's not really our fault. This media group's the one that gave us the money, and they were American. We had no idea that they had Russian ties. They just wanted us to say things that were pro-Russian, and they were giving us money, so we were like, dope, we can do that. Like I said, this blows the whole goddamn, well, I follow these guys because they're not corrupt, out of the water. I don't want to hear ever again from the conspiracy theorists that email me, that message me, that come in my chat about the corrupt media. The people you guys follow are literally getting paid by Russians. I don't ever want to hear that shit again. Ever again.
He and other influencers have been, quote, victims in this alleged scheme. That is wild. Trumpers are always victims. And the most disgusting part about all of this, we haven't even touched on the fact that they all run defense for Donald Trump and his attempts to overthrow U.S. democracy. We talked about him destabilizing people and making sure that people are not trusting our elections, but he genuinely tried to overthrow American democracy. He wants to shred, terminate our Constitution. He wants to make it so that people who burn the American flag go to jail, and he wants to subvert the will of the American people, become a king, and he's been backed by these journalists. I'm not even going to call them journalists. I'm putting that in quotes, who have been being paid by the Kremlin. It actually pisses me off to an extent. The indictment alleges that not everyone affiliated with Tenet was unaware of the scheme, stating that founders 1 and 2 of the company knew the source of their funding. The founders of Tenet Media are Lauren Shen and her husband. These are also very popular right-wing influencers. Shen is a conservative influencer and YouTuber who's hosted a show on Blaze TV and who's affiliated with Turning Point USA.
So even if even if you want to claim like, oh, we didn't know because it was this Tennessee media group. Even the people at the top, the people that founded the group, the people that are taking the money from these people are like the same exact people. This is like a conglomerate of right-wing conservative commentators, because like my man Anna Mockler said, they're not journalists, commentators that know each other, that circle jerk off to each other while they rub their faces in the millions of dollars that they're getting from Russia propaganda machines. You don't get to be the victim. You don't get to be the victim.
Would you guys be surprised if it came out that other people like Charlie Kirk, other people like Ben Shapiro are allegedly connected with Russia? I would not be. The indictment alleges that RT officials and founders 1 and 2, quote, also worked together to deceive 2 U.S. online commentators, commentator 1 and 2, who respectively have 2.4 and 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. Dave Rubin has 2.4, Tim Pool has 1.3, but Benny Johnson, who said he was a victim, is not said as being deceived. The indictment indicates that even some of the people working at Tenet found their content heavy-handed. On February 15th of this year, Afanasyev, using the name Helena Shudra, shared a video in a company Discord channel of what the indictment calls, quote, a well-known U.S. political commentator visiting a grocery store in Russia.
Tucker
While
Carlson!
he's not named in the indictment, it clearly matches Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is most likely being paid by Russia, and this only supports that, who toured a grocery store, declaring himself...
Dude. I keep saying this over and over and again, and that is that, like, I want to believe the best about right-wing conservative people in this country. Like, I want to, like, truly, like, believe that Tucker Carlson's just a moron. Benny Johnson's just a moron. Tim Pool's just a moron. But the more you get into this stuff, the more you see, the more evidence that continues to pile up. It shows that these people ain't just morons. They're selfish, greedy, the most unpatriotic people in this country. Like I said this before. Look, at the end of the day, if RFK Jr. were to make it into office, the industry that I work in will most likely explode. I'm already seeing increases from people coming in that would never come out because they're RFK supporters, right? All of a sudden they care about raw milk. All of a sudden they care about supplements. But I don't want that because I know it's bad for the country. Even though it would personally enrich me and I can make more money off that, that doesn't do me any good because I don't want other people to suffer around me. Like, I want to see America whole and healthy. I want to see Americans happy and enjoying life and well taken care of, having health care and social safety nets. Like, my short-term happiness from a bunch of dipshits all of a sudden deciding that they don't want to eat factory farm beef anymore. They finally fucking came to the light. Like I don't need that. I don't need that. I would rather that America was healthy. I'd rather that Americans were happy. Like, this is fucking insane to me.
Slack-jawed and wonder of how nice it was, how amazing it was
What a spike
over
in
Russia.
Captain.
By the way, this was after he interviewed Putin and said that we need to stop funding Ukraine. Quote, later that day, the indictment
What a Boxford.
adds, Producer 1 privately messaged Founder 2 on Discord. They want me to post this, referencing the video that she posted, but it just feels like overt shilling. Founder 2 replied that she thinks we should put it out there. Listen to this. So, an actual Russian plant thought Vladimir Putin's shilling for Russia was too heavy-handed. An actual Russian plant. That is too much for me to handle. Tenet's recent content on sites like YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok has been heavily larded with critical commentary about Kamala Harris. Conservative political commentator and documented plagiarist Benny Johnson, for instance.
What do you guys think? Tell me, guys. Elon Musk? What do you think? Like, if you think of this in like a mafia-style way, like, Elon Musk controls the platform that all of these people use to spread this disinformation, right? Like, you see some of this kind of stuff on Facebook, Instagram, if you don't know it, for political influencers, like, your content gets knocked way down. They sent out like a warning that was like, political content will not be seen. You are good luck with your life if this is what you make money off of, pretty much was the warning. Now, I know for like bigger people that doesn't exactly apply, but it seems like the main vehicle for all of this information is Twitter. It seems like that. And if we're talking mafia, we're talking about the dude at the top that owns the ability for all of these people to be able to spread that misinformation. And he seems to be a pretty big fan of all these people nowadays. What do you guys think? You think Elon Musk knows about this stuff? You think Elon Musk is helping it to gain traction? Because I think I do. I think I do.
Recently starred in a video about her, quote, empty words.
What about his mechanic?
And he was even outside the DNC. We had a paid shill outside the DNC trying to trap Democrats. This is crazy. This is important. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. Peace out.
Streamline the way you...
Wow, that's insane. That is pretty crazy stuff. Like I said, this is the type of stuff that we're getting into, where for like years I would say it'll never be proven. You'll never see it. But obviously they're already working the case. These cases don't go to court unless they can prove stuff. These cases don't go to trial unless they can prove stuff. That is insane that is happening. And once again, from the very people that admonish me, constantly admonish me. And I don't even watch CNN or Fox News, but they constantly admonish me for being a mainstream media shill. A person that watches all the corrupt people. Like I said, I don't want to hear another goddamn word from these people about corrupt media. The people you guys follow are being paid by Russians. Wasn't it the Hunter Biden thing? Where the guy literally said that he was getting his information from Russian sources and that he was told to say those things and they had to drop out of that because their main dude, their main witness, what was his name? Smirnov, right? Alexei Smirnov, right? That he was getting information from Russian sources. How many times is this going to happen before people wake the fuck up and go, it seems as though the conservatives nowadays have a lot of connections to Russians. They also, turns out a lot of them don't want to support Ukraine. Pretty sure you can put two and two together, unless you're Terrence Howard. Lev Parnov. Was that who? Parnov was the guy who went around, right, for Giuliani. Right? For Giuliani, and he said he couldn't get one person to flip on Biden. I think that's who Lev Parnov was. I don't know if you guys saw any of the Lex Fridman Donald Trump interview. My personal opinion of it is that it wasn't a very good opinion or a very good interview. That's like I like Lex Fridman, to be honest with you guys. I really like Lex. I think he drives most people nuts because he's trying to be like this enlightened centrist dude. I don't like him for his political opinions. I like a lot of his work with AI and just his interest in technology. And I liked a lot of his interviews with people that come from, like, you know, crazy backgrounds and stuff like that. But my personal opinion of the Lex Fridman Donald Trump interview was it was pretty bad. I don't think that you can interview Donald Trump and be a centrist. What did I see the other day? P.F. Jung. I like him too. And he's an enlightened centrist. I think he actually is an enlightened centrist. Calls himself one at least. And I saw him debating with Rob Noor, or having a conversation with Rob Noor, who's a big Trumper. And he was, you know, dropping all this stuff about the fake elector scheme and how it wasn't real and how Trump had the right and all this stuff. And P.F. Chang's had to like kind of be a centrist, and he didn't have any real information to dispute the things that Rob Noor was saying. So it was a really like annoying interview to watch, because every time the guy said something, I'm just like sitting there going, that's not fucking true. It's not true. Say this thing. Say this thing. But he couldn't, because he doesn't know it. And when you take this like enlightened centrist attitude, you end up a little bit like that Jesse on Fire guy the other day, where you're saying things like, well, hey, bro, like both sides are bad. Like, no, one side tried to legitimately overturn the election. The other side has not done that. Stop saying both sides are bad. That's fucking dumb. That's retarded. I was told I can say that. Not allowed to use the other word, but I can say, in reference to Republicans, retarded. Anyways, this is David Pakman talking a little bit about the interview. I wanted to be able to talk a little bit about the interview, but I didn't want to watch the interview because, to tell you the truth, it's fucking boring. Lex Fridman asks questions, and Donald Trump doesn't answer them. Like, that's the entire interview from beginning to end, is Lex Fridman asking questions like, what would you do about Ukraine? And Donald Trump going, it never would have happened. Ukraine never would. He's like, okay, well, but it did, so what would you do? Never would have happened. Never would have happened. He just doesn't answer anything. And it's actually, I like watching Trump interviews with people where it's like mildly combative, or like even the Logan Paul shit. You guys sat here with me and watched the Logan Paul one with me. I thought that was entertaining. I think he's an idiot. I think Logan Paul's not the smartest motherfucker either. But Trump's a moron. I'll laugh at his ass. 100%, I think that Lex Fridman, Donald Trump interview, it was boring as fuck, man.
Ever seen was published yesterday. It was Lex Fridman interviewing the failed former president Donald Trump. Now, some of you may recall, I was on Lex's show some time ago.
Don,
and
you saw
Lex
something about
Fridman's
Ivanka?
approach
Yeah, I don't
to
know anything.
interviewing
I think that's an old interview.
Is sort of laid back, not particularly.
He talked to Ivanka, I think, and Jared Kushner, back in July or something like that. And to tell you the truth, that would probably be a pretty interesting interview. Like, one of the things about Lex, and I like Lex, but Lex talks really slow. And so if you don't have somebody on the other side that's like really like interesting, Lex is like really intelligent, but he's intelligent in that way of like, he's very like methodical in the way he speaks. You know who else does that? Drives me nuts is Sam Harris. Fucking love Sam Harris. I think Sam Harris is incredibly intelligent. I don't agree with all his takes. I know you guys are about to shit on me for liking Sam Harris, but I like Sam Harris. I don't agree with all his politics and stuff like that. But incredibly intelligent guy, but he talks so slow that it's hard to listen to it. And so does Lex Fridman.
Argumentative. Let the guest explain how they came to their views without any real probing or certainly no contradictions with facts. And that was Lex's approach in this interview. There are people defending him saying, listen, this is the way he's done his 441 episodes before this one, so why would we expect anything different? And there are those who are angry saying, well, listen, when you interview a former president who is the Republican candidate, you can't just let them lie uncontrollably and either refuse or be ill-equipped to contradict what they say. Let's watch some of the clips and then make that determination. One of the things you will notice is that Trump is slurring and seems sedated, and his right eye is almost completely swollen shut. It's almost closed. It's like he's been in a boxing ring. It's bizarre. One of the funny things is that Lex has a kind of low-key affect himself. And I'm not suggesting that Trump is trying to match Lex's affect, but Lex is so low-key. Trump sounds sedated. His eye is almost completely swollen shut.
Yeah, this is what I was saying.
It's wild. We pick up the interview when Lex Fridman asks Trump about his claims regarding the 2020 election. Trump tells 13 lies in 2.5 minutes. 13 lies in 2.5.
Come on, those are rookie numbers for Donald Trump, David. I don't know why David's so impressed by that. Donald Trump's like, 13? That was it? I could have done 16 easily. Next time, I'll try harder. 13, those are rookie numbers.
Minutes. Let's see if you can count them all. We'll watch, and then we will discuss.
Tough topic, but important. You said lost by a whisker. I'm an independent. I have a lot of friends who are independent, many of whom like your policies, like the fact that you're a deal maker, like the fact that you can end wars, but they are troubled by what happened in the 2020 election and statements about widespread fraud and this kind of stuff, fake electoral scheme. What can you say to those independent voters to help them decide who to vote for?
Right. I think
Before he answers this is what I'm saying. Do you see how centrist he dropped that? He dropped that with, I'm an independent, I know other independents. And then instead of saying, like, I feel like maybe some of the things you said were very controversial, I feel as though, like, possibly, you know, you might have committed treason. Instead, he goes, I have friends that think that you may have, and it causes them concern. And it's like, I understand being a centrist. Like, you know, you've seen me and Reverend talk about, like, objectivism and stuff. And I really do believe in attempting to look at any situation with as little bias as possible. You're always going to have some bias. But attempting to approach your bias and give people a chance, give them good faith, give them grace to attempt to make their point. And to the point that some of you guys get annoyed with me, right? So I get that. Who is it? Andrew, what's his name, comes in and calls me a goddamn fucking centrist. And he's kind of right. You know, sometimes I play a little too close to the middle of the field. Sometimes I want to wait for more information and kind of like get a better idea of what's going on before I like to jump full board into it and go angry ginger on some shit. But this is annoying. That like position that Lex Fridman just took was absolutely annoying. And that's why I couldn't deal with it. I was watching it just like cringing the whole goddamn time.
Independent voters to help them decide who to vote for.
Right. I think the fraud was on the other side. I think the election was a fraud, and many people.
And I'm going to play the 13 lies. That's the first. I'm going to play the 13 lies back to back, but I'm just acknowledging. Trump sounds absolutely. He sounds like he's on sedatives. I mean, it's bizarre.
Felt it was that, and they wanted answers. And when you can't challenge an election, you have to be able to challenge it. Otherwise, it's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, and nobody disagrees with it. This is why I think that people that debate with Trump are so bad faith. People that debate for Trump are so bad faith because I will say things along the lines of Donald Trump had every right to look into the election. He had every right to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I have zero problem with that. I have zero problem with investigating fraud. The absolute bullshit, bad faith stance that Trump and his supporters continue to take is that regardless of how much he has gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, that they still believe that there was fraud and that it was stolen. That's why they are bad faith. Because regardless whether or not he paid people to look into it, whether Republicans, if you listen to that Raffensperger phone call, Raffensperger isn't like conflictual. He's not confrontational. He's like literally trying to suck up to Trump in the way of being like, sir, listen, I tried to do you solid. I tried. I really did. It just isn't there. Like if you're at least being good faith enough to say, Raffensperger and Kemp aren't exactly going to try to get a Democrat elected. Like, if they had the chance to help Donald Trump out, they definitely would have. Like, if you can't be good faith enough to admit that, then there is no debating with you. You're in a fucking cult.
And there are lots of ways to solve this problem. Go to paper ballots and do it the easy way. I mean, the paper ballots, and you have voter ID and you have same-day voting. And you have proof of citizenship, which is very important because we have people voting that are not citizens. They just came in and they're loading up the payrolls. They're loading up everything. They're putting students in schools. They don't speak a word of English. And they're taking the seats of people that are citizens of our country.
Yeah, these are all the lies he's saying back to back. Like I said, there's so many things that we can talk about with like our immigration system and stuff like that that do need to be fixed. Even things to do with like voter ID law and stuff like that that I do agree with. But when you exaggerate things and say things like immigrants are coming across the border and they're putting them on the vertipoles, Ken Block, who Donald Trump paid to find these things, didn't find these things. He had every reason to engender himself into Donald Trump's trust circle. So many people so far have been willing to go far outside of the norms to make themselves available to Trump so that way Trump will take care of them. Ken Block could have done that. He didn't do it. Because the dude actually had some integrity.
So, look, we have the worst border in the history of the world. We have coming into our country right now millions and millions of...
Like that. We have the worst border in the history of the world. Like, if you have half a fucking brain cell left in your head, you understand how exaggerated that statement is. You mean, like, over in the war-torn Congo where there's people, like, fucking literally, like, women being assaulted every single day? Like, yeah, that... Their borders are better than ours? Dude, it's exaggeration, and it's the least helpful thing to having a real conversation about the border. Like, fentanyl coming across the border, bad thing. We should be talking about that. We want to have that conversation. I want to see that fixed. But you don't fix that by making these absurd statements, because that makes the conversation highly polarized. It makes the conversation a zero-sum game. Either we do these things that I want done, or else the world is falling apart. I was saying this to Redonk the other night. He sent me a really cool video, and I'll share it in Discord. It's a good video. It's a guy who talks a lot about, like, potential things happening in society that are leading to some of the crazy stuff that we're seeing. And it's very centrist. It's a very centrist video, but I liked it because it's cerebral. But I was saying this. This is what I hate about doomerism. That dude's not a doomer because he wants to talk about things that could potentially go bad in society. He's not a doomer because he wants to talk philosophically about what happened 250 years ago, 500 years ago, the different, like, things that happen generation to generation that seem to always be happening. There's nothing wrong with that. Doomers, the problem with doomers is the border. It isn't just a problem, it's the biggest problem. The people coming across the border, they're not just bad people, they're the worst people. COVID wasn't handled good at all. The vaccines are killing people. Joe Biden, he's part of the biggest crime family. Joe Biden, worst president ever. That's the problem with doomerism. It's not just saying, like, here's these things that we have that are issues, and I think that these people behind it are, like, big money people. That's more like just your regular everyday conspiracy theorizer, and I can have conversations with even those people and say, yeah, I agree with some of that stuff. Big pharma being involved in some of this shit is not good. Dark money being involved in politics, not good. Corporations owning shit like oligarchs, not good. We can have those conversations. My problem is with doomers, because every single thing they see means it's either the end of the world or it's the worst possible scenario. And you can't talk to people that sit around and think all day long that, like, everything is the worst and we're all gonna die. And you just, what are we gonna do? We can't do anything about it because the only thing we can do about it is put Donald Trump in charge. That's insane. Later, Tired. Appreciate you, Tired. Love you, Tired.
To people at levels that nobody's ever seen. I don't believe any country's ever seen it. And
yeah,
they
it's
would
all
use
Chicken
sticks
Little
and
bullshit,
stones
man.
not to make it happen, not to let it happen. We don't do anything. And we have a person who was the border czar, who now said she wasn't really the border czar, but she was. She was the border czar, but she was in.
Like, even that, all you have to say is that Kamala Harris was given the job to go to these other countries, these Central American countries, to attempt to address the root cause of immigration. The idea that things like climate change are causing people to leave their country, the idea that civil unrest is causing people to leave these countries, those are all true things. There are caravans of people that make their way through Mexico, Central America, to our border, and unfortunately, because they're unable to handle it, a lot of those people get let loose into the country without enough supervision to satisfy my point of view. I disagree with it. But the idea of sending Kamala Harris to these Central American countries was to help those countries solidify their civil systems, solidify our trade agreements with them to help them. So that way we address the root cause of why those people are leaving those countries. So once again, you could have a conversation about whether or not she did good or not about that. Because from what I saw, the statistics I've seen shows a reduction of over 50% from those countries coming to America, which means that most likely she did. But we could have a conversation about it if you want to talk about that. But if all you're going to do is say borders are, borders are, borders are, borders are, borders are, then no, I can't have a conversation with you because you're full of shit and you don't know anything you're talking about.
In charge of the border. And we have her, and she's saying...
Yeah, exactly.
Very strongly.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I did such a good job. She was horrible, horrible. The harm she's done. But we have people coming in from other countries all over the world, not just South America. And they're coming in from prisons and jails. They're coming in from mental institutions and insane asylums.
Okay.
And he's
That's
just been repeating
just
the same
under
line
2.5
for so
minutes.
long.
And Trump told 13 lies. 13 lies. Trump says Democrats committed voter fraud in 2020. There's no evidence.
Proven true. Untrue.
Trump says many people felt there was Democratic voter fraud. Well, facts and feelings are two different things. Trump says you can't challenge an election. That's wrong. Trump tried, and he did everything that you can.
Yeah, I've even said this over and over and over again. He actually made me feel better about our election system because out of any president up to this point that I know of, at least, he went through the electoral process with a fine-tooth comb. And when we talk about, like, Ken Block got up there and he said, hey, look, there were people that it said on the voter rolls that they were born in 1900. But that's not due to fraud. And this is Donald Trump's guy. This is Donald Trump's guy. He said it wasn't due to voter fraud. It was due to a glitch in the system that when a birth date is either incorrectly input or the birth date is not put in by the person. And anybody that's ever had to do data entry off of somebody handwriting, like if you had to ever enter somebody's email into a system, you know how hard sometimes it is to read people's handwriting. People's handwriting is shit. So you can imagine when it comes down to these systems where people are inputting this data into systems that on occasion, birth dates are incorrect. Birth dates are not entered. And they default, because the system's set up, to defaulting to the year 1900. That's why he said it would be really crazy to have 1,100 people that all were from 1900 that voted. And when you actually go through the process of looking into who these people are and then figuring out who they actually are and what their actual birth dates are, you find that they're still alive. They voted appropriately, and that the problem isn't with the person voting and they're dead. The problem is with the system that we have, and we should correct that. He called it, what did he say? He called it crap data. He said, for lack of a better term, it's crap data. And we should fix that. But we can't talk about fixing it because people are like, no, it's not actually that. They're using dead people to vote, bro.
It's just there was no merit to the challenge. Trump says paper ballots would solve this. It wouldn't. I mean, voter fraud of the kind Trump claims is so rare. Paper ballots would just bring this massive logistical issue for handling and storing them. If there's a natural disaster, they can get lost. It's really a solution in search of a problem. Trump says voter ID would solve it. Remember that it is not really a problem. And we know that voter ID laws disproportionately impact certain groups of voters, low-income people, elderly.
Yeah, the one in Arizona currently that the courts just overturned, but just so you guys know, it doesn't affect this election. It disproportionately affects people like Native Americans. I just got my birth certificate because I didn't have my I thought I had my copy of my birth certificate, but I didn't. So I needed my birth certificate. So I just went through the process of getting my birth certificate. It's not an easy process. And it shouldn't be. Legitimately so. It shouldn't be an easy process. Like getting a hold of a person's birth certificate shouldn't be just like logging on online, paying $10 and getting it sent to your house. It wasn't an easy process, and it took about 4.5 months for me to get it. Total. Like 4.5 months. I could have probably expedited it by paying more money, but once again, these are people that don't have these means. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't have to present this idea. I'm saying there's a different solution. The solution isn't because you're a conservative and you know that low-income people disproportionately vote for Democrats, that you should make it harder for them to vote. If you are 100% in agreement that you believe your ideas are the right ideas for America because most Americans agree with you, then you should also be 100% for making sure that every single American has the ability to vote. So instead of saying something like, well, a bunch of Native Americans don't get the chance to vote, like we haven't fucked them enough already, but let's say you don't think they should be able to vote because they don't have birth certificates, so they can't get passports or they can't get ID, whatever it is, you don't want them to be able to vote, then you should be putting in legislation. You should put in money from the government to support programs to help them get those birth certificates so that way they can vote appropriately. Well, we know the reason they don't want them to vote is because they vote disproportionately for Democrats. And this is where the fucking problem is.
Folks, students, everybody who is eligible to vote, to be clear, and there's no evidence that voter ID
still doesn't
actually
add
prevents voter fraud.
enough
There's
to
also
affect
no
the
evidence
outcome
that
in the
voter
first
fraud
place.
is happening. Trump says same-day voting would solve it.
No, I need a
It
physical
doesn't
copy.
exist.
Look, Mike,
of course,
some
requiring
things you
all
can't
votes
have
to be
unless you have
cast
a
on the
physical
same
copy.
day just increases the likelihood that lines are really long, that polling places are crowded, that there are technical issues, and that can deter people from voting. It would cause a problem. Trump says proof of citizenship would solve it. Reality is that current voter registration process already includes citizen verification through either the U.S. Census or state-specific requirements of different kinds. And these vague proof of citizenship requirements would be redundant, and they would be unlikely to catch fraud because the fraud isn't actually happening. Trump says non-citizens who just came to the United States are voting. There's no evidence of that. Trump says immigrants who speak no English are taking the seats of people from our country. I don't even know what that means. Trump says that we have the worst border in history. That's certainly not true, as we've seen significant declines in border crossings under the Biden administration. He says Kamala Harris was the border czar. She was not. He says that people are coming into the country from prisons and jails. There's no evidence of that. And finally, Trump says people are coming into the country illegally from mental institutions and insane asylums. And there is also no evidence of that.
And once again, so if that was true, so this is the hypocrisy of MAGA. MAGA wants you to believe that 40 million people have come across the border in the last 4 years. And they also want you to believe that 40 million of those people, there is a high percentage of them that are terrorists, that are criminals, that are going to sexually assault and perform just various crimes across the country at all times. Yet at the same time, there's no numbers to prove any of that. So if there's 40 million of these people, and they've all come into our country, and they're all committing crimes widespread across the country, then why is there no evidence? You're telling me that 40 million people can come into our country and commit crimes, and there's not going to be any evidence? None? Except for like your twice a week, hey, we caught an immigrant that committed a crime. The New York Post posting that some dude broke into a store and then assaulted a police officer. Like, I can post every single day for the rest of my life crimes committed by people in America that are American, that are citizens, that are abhorrent. I could do it like all day long, every day for the rest of my life. And you're telling me that MAGA and Fox News, that has every reason to be broadcasting these crimes across the board, and they do when they find them every once in a while, wouldn't do the same? Please. If that shit was going on, Fox News would be nothing but a 24/7 channel of immigrant crimes just being just like, it would just be on loop. But no. What do they find? Once, like, every 2 weeks, they find an immigrant that committed a crime. They're full of shit.
In 2.5 minutes. When Lex Fridman tells Trump claims of widespread fraud are bothering some people,
exactly,
here's how Trump reacts.
It just don't add up.
So a lot of people believe that there was some shady stuff that went on with the election, whether it's media bias or big tech, but still the claim of widespread fraud is the thing that bothers people.
Dude, Lex Fridman, my guy. You're friends with Elon Musk. Jesus Christ. I like Lex, but, like, this is the kind of shit that concerns me. Lex Fridman is friends with Elon Musk, the biggest of tech. He knows Eric and Brett Weinstein. They are friends with Peter Thiel, the biggest of tech. I don't know if these guys are intentionally being dishonest about their connections to these fucking billionaire oligarchs that are big tech, or if they genuinely don't know that they're being hypocrites. I can't tell.
Well, I don't focus on the past. I focus on the future.
Yes,
when
exactly,
Trump is
Cajun.
told
all day,
this
every
nonsense
day, many
is
different
really
people are
bothering
crimes,
a lot of people,
not
you may be
specific
turning
to
off
one
voters.
type of person.
Trump says, "I'm not focused on the past.
I'm from the
focused
ghetto.
on the future."
None but white people where I was from
Yet,
commit crimes all day
at
long.
every rally,
I was one of them
for nearly 4 years. Trump rehashes these same debunked claims about the 2020 election. Trump then addresses the issue of religion and heaven. It's really weird. Trump's delivery is bizarre. Something is very wrong.
Oh, no.
Before these animals
yeah,
were
it's cute
adopted.
animals. Aw, this is a palate cleanser
Before they
right now.
became a best
Aw.
friend.
Okay, we got to get out before the sad part happens.
One of the tragic
Sarah McLachlan was just about to start singing Arms of an Angel. I swear to God.
things about life is that it ends. How often do you think about your death? Are you afraid of it?
I have a friend who's very, very successful, and he's in his 80s, mid-80s, and he asked me that exact same question. I turned it around. I said, well, what about you? He said, I think about it every minute of every day. And then a week later, he called me to tell me something.
That's not
and he
good.
starts off the conversation by going, tick, tock, tick, tock.
Yeah.
This is nutty stuff from Trump.
This is
That is
dark,
so weird.
This is a dark person, in a sense, but it is what it is. I mean, if you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven. if
Ideally
you're
not
good.
hell.
I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guide, to a certain extent it was a guide.
Meanwhile, in the Middle East right now, people are like murdering each other like ad nauseum. This man's talking about immigrants coming into our country and committing crimes like at an untold rate. Meanwhile, you're going to defend, and look, I don't have any problem with people that are religious as long as they are Christ-like followers, as long as they are Quran-like, whatever it is. Whatever your religion is, whoever the good person in your religion is, as long as you are following the rules like thou shalt not murder each other, thou shalt not steal each other's shit, thou shalt not be an asshole, thou shalt not be a dick. Like, I support you for that. But it is undeniable that in the Middle East right now, there are motherfuckers killing each other over a hill. Because it has a mosque, and they'd rather it had a temple because they needed to have a temple so that way they could burn a red cow for the apocalypse to come. I don't know that the world is a better place when we're all fighting over a fucking hill so that way we can bring upon us the end of times. There are literally 2 places in Syria where the Muslim religion believes that Christians will show up with the Antichrist who will claim that he is Jesus, and they will fight a battle, and they are constantly trying to make that happen. I don't know that makes the world a better place. I think that just throwing it out there might be a worse place if you're constantly trying to bring about the end of times. That's just how I feel about it. You guys can argue with me on that. Come at me, bro.
You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails.
Of course, the claim that without religion there are no guardrails has been so widely discussed for so long.
Bucky, we watched that video last Monday.
A subject
we watched
for
that
us
video
today.
Monday.
But the funniest part of all of this is that as Lex nods along, we all know Trump's not even religious. This is a character he's developed to enter politics in the Republican Party. Trump hasn't been to church for 3 years. I mean, the last time he went that we were able to find was 2021. It's all a farce.
Yeah, and it's just to be seen. And I don't have it down here with me, but recently I've been reading that Joe Moore book, Broken Badges and White Robes. It's the book about, and something I got wrong. I said he was an FBI agent. He was not an FBI agent. He was just a civilian that became a civilian informant and entered into the Ku Klux Klan. But for a person myself who grew up around skinheads and Peckerwoods, Featherwoods, Supreme White Power, Nazi lowriders, all those, really racist people, I don't have a lot of understanding of the history of the Ku Klux Klan and stuff. So this book has been really eye-opening when it's talking about things like Rosewood, and one of the things I guess I didn't 100% understand about the Ku Klux Klan is the religiosity of the Klan. And at the part where he's infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan and he's being naturalized. He's being naturalized as a card-carrying Ku Klux Klan member. He gets taken into this house with a sack over his head, roughed up a little bit, and they shove him into this room, and the room's completely dark except for Charles Denton, who is I believe he's the Grand Wizard of the White Knights, the Northern and Southern, I think, because I think there's 5 Grand Wizards. And he's there in these purple robes, and then you have another dude in green robes, another dude in black robes, and behind them is this cross that has 14 candles, and then on the table in front of them is an open Bible with a sword, and they knight him as a knight of the Ku Klux Klan. And I didn't really recognize, because I guess it doesn't always make sense to me, the two sides of faith, the two sides of religion. And that is the absolute zealotry of people like the Ku Klux Klan or the people in the Middle East that are murdering each other over a hill. And then the Christ-like followers, the people that believe in being a good person, taking care of the homeless, feeding veterans, stuff like that. It's hard for me sometimes to remember that both of those things exist, even though they conflict. And Donald Trump reminds me of the type of person that's in this book that shows up to these KKK things to be I'm part of the church. I'm always here with you guys. I love your children, you love me. We all go to church together. But the only reason he's there, and not that Donald Trump even goes to church, but the reason he claims that he's religious is just to get that clout, just to get you to be loyal to him, just so you feel him.
And that really would be the question I would like to see.
Probably
asked.
Dark Cash.
Lex Fridman asking Trump, when you are composing one of your posts to Truth Social,
Bob,
what are
you are praying right now,
Where
Bob.
Are you?
What are you doing usually when you're composing a truth? Are you chilling?
Nah, we let him talk, Cajun. We like to let him talk. There is no better panacea. Is that how you say that word? No better antidote for MAGA than letting MAGA talk. You want people to see it. You want them to understand it. You want them to see what these people think. There is nothing that will make somebody quicker go, oh shit, I want nothing to do with that person, than someone coming in my chat.
Chilling back on a couch.
Couches, beds.
Okay.
a lot of different things.
Pangea,
and
that's,
of course,
that's the word.
a lot of different things I can only
I'm
assume
talking about the antidote
includes the
Can't say
toilet,
it's too
as
big.
widely reported, Trump regularly having to flush 10 to 15 times. The topic of the Jeffrey Epstein
I love when he talks
passenger
about the
lists
toilets.
and other documents came up. And as is typically the case, Trump does appear uncomfortable with the topic.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
I don't think I mean, I'm not involved. I never went to his island, fortunately. But a lot of people did.
Oh, me and David have the same reaction. He's like, yeah, did I fly on his plane a lot? Yep. Did I go to a lot of parties with him? Yep. Did I know his girlfriend, wife, whatever, co-conspirator really fucking well? Yep. Did I ever go to his island? Nah, I didn't go to his island.
Oh my goodness. Why is he talking like that? Why is his eye almost completely swollen shut? And why does he always get uncomfortable when the topic of the guy he's in numerous videos hanging out with, Jeffrey Epstein, is brought up? Maybe we will never know, but I hope someday we will. Trump not exactly playing up his law and order credentials when he says Hillary Clinton is lucky that he didn't lock her up.
As the leader,
I wanted to say one more thing about the Epstein Island listing. I'm going to go on record right now. If Donald Trump were to follow through with any kind of records from Epstein coming out, they will be heavily redacted. And there's no such thing as a list, okay? I know that Trump supporters are they're very simple people. They're like, there's a list! It's not a list, you dipshits, okay? If anything comes out from Epstein, and I'm with you guys. I want to see the Epstein files too. I want to see them. I don't give a shit if there's Democrats on there. I don't care. Like, if my favorite football player is on there, I'm not going to say anything because last time I did this and I was like, fuck, that'd be fucked up if somebody took that out of context. If one of my favorite football players, a guy that's on my fantasy football team that's taking me to the motherland, happens to be on that list, fuck him, okay? Bill Clinton happens to be on that list, fuck him, okay? Donald Trump, I know, is on that list, so fuck him. All right? So I'm with you. I want to see him released too. But I will bet money today that if Donald Trump becomes president and releases those files, they'll be heavily redacted. I'd say about 200 times. Isn't that how many times his name appears in those flight logs? It will be 2 words. They will be the length of, let's say, Donald Trump, and they will be heavily redacted throughout the entire files. That's the only way you're going to see that. Kate Johnson, 13, 14 years old. Read the testimony from the Kate Johnson Florida case. It's open. I'll give you guys the link to it if you guys want to see the link to it. It's horrific. It's horrific. The things that she claims that Trump and Epstein did to her are horrific. It's not like you just read it and you're like, wow, that's fucked up. No, it's disgusting. It's gross. It's terrible. It's beyond belief. Donald Trump don't want to release those files.
leader of the United States, you were the most powerful man in the world.
Anybody on it?
As you mentioned, not only the most famous, but the most powerful. And if you become leader again, you will have unprecedented power. Just on your own personal psychology, what does that power do to you? Is there any threat of it corrupting how you see the world?
No, I don't think so. Look, I've been there for 4 years.
And you guys heard that, right? I mean, just his tongue engaged in a battle to the death against his tongue.
Just on your own personal psychology, what does that power do to you? Is there any threat of it corrupting how you see the world?
No, I don't think so. Look, I've been there for 4 years.
Yikes.
I could have done a big number on Hillary Clinton. I thought it looked terrible to take the president's wife and put her in prison. She's so lucky. I didn't do anything.
And is he drunk? He does sound like he's drunk. He sounds like he's drunk. The reason that Hillary Clinton isn't in prison is because there was not enough evidence to try Hillary Clinton. James Comey, not exactly a Hillary Clinton fan, okay? James Comey did that investigation, ruined any chance for Hillary Clinton to win that election. Even my dumbass was spouting off at the mouth about his findings before I'd actually looked into his findings, before I read his actual findings, instead of just like listening to what the dude wanted to say. Right now, the only person that should be saying anything about how they're like lucky that they're not in prison is Donald Trump. Because September 16th, Juan Merchan is supposed to make his opinion known on whether or not he would like to push back the sentencing for Donald Trump. If that was me, if that was you, if that was anybody else, there wouldn't be any pushing back of sentencing. There wouldn't be any chance that you could ask for a stay of sentencing and hope that you didn't get put in prison or even given community service. But Donald Trump now has already done it once, and he's about to try it a second time. And then once Juan Merchan, which I believe this is what he'll do, once Juan Merchan says we're not going to push back sentencing any further, look, all I'm going to give you is fucking community service. Just take it. You're going to be on probation. Stop being a little bitch. Donald Trump's going to claim presidential immunity, which we all know in no way, shape, or form should be affecting this trial. But he's going to use it anyways because he knows that it's going to cause the cases to be stalled again. Donald Trump should never, ever in his life sit here and talk about how somebody should be locked up and they're so lucky. Donald Trump should be locked up. He's lucky.
She's so lucky.
That's absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying that he is saying essentially Hillary Clinton should
you can't
be
lock
thanking
people
me
up without evidence.
that I didn't lock her up. By what means Trump would have done it, we still don't know. And then finally, Lex Fridman addressing the issue of supposed tension with podcaster Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, this
Trump
should be good.
says
What up,
Rogan's
AJ?
kind of a liberal guy, and I don't know that I'm inclined to appear on his show.
Let me ask you about my good friend Joe Rogan. So you had a bit of tension with him. So when he said nice things about RFK Jr.
I'm just going to say that this is weird. Can we agree that this is kind of weird? A bunch of grown-ass men. Like, so my friend said something about his friend, and you got mad that he said he liked his friend more than he liked you, and then you got mad? Are you still mad? Like, come on, like, it's weird. It's fucking weird.
Jr., I think. You've said some not so nice things about Joe, and I think that was a bit unfair. And as a fan of Joe, I would love to see you do his podcast because he...
Dude, Lex, good God, man. Lex. These people are like stretching my ability to like still enjoy them. Lex. Is that really what you just came with? Was that what you just came with, Lex? Oh my God, man.
He is legit the greatest conversationalist in the world. So
Yeah.
what's the story behind the tension?
I don't think there was any tension. And I've always liked him, but I don't know him. I mean, I only see him when I walk into the arena with Dana and I shake his hand. I see him there, and I think he's good at what he does, but I don't know about doing his podcast. I mean, I guess I'd do it, but I haven't been asked, and I'm not asking them, you know. I'm not asking anybody.
It sounds like a challenging negotiation situation.
No, it's not. It's not really a negotiation. And he's sort of a liberal guy, I guess, you know, from what I understand.
Yeah. So I don't know about Rogan and being liberal at this point, certainly. Here's my thought about the interview. Trump's performance, bizarre, slurring, eyes swollen shut. So I don't know what's going on with his teeth or tongue. It just, none of it makes any sense. And Trump's demeanor, bizarre, lied through the entire thing. Lex Fridman's a good guy. He means well. I sat with him for hours on his show. We talked before. We talked after. This interview was not good in the sense of Trump just lied his whole way through it. Trump said endlessly, factually incorrect things, whether they were all lies or some were mistakes or ignorance. I don't know. You decide. Lex did not fact check. Now, it is true. You know, this is podcast episode, I think I said this is episode 442 for Lex Fridman. He did it the same way he did the other 441. So, in a sense, you know what you're getting into. And so I don't know if the criticisms of Lex's handling are super fair. And, you know, oh, but David, you must be friends with Lex. I haven't had any interaction with Lex that I can recall since I was on his show a year and a half or 2 years ago. I also know, you know, imagine, I don't know if I was episode 350 or whatever. If he's done 349 episodes one way and I show up and he treats me completely differently, it would be a sort of strange thing. My preference would be that this just be a different sort of interview altogether. I prefer an interview, especially when you're doing something like a public service, it's a former president and presidential candidate. I want there to be fact checking, and I want there to be, wait a second, you just said 13 things in 2.5 minutes. None of them are true. Let's go through them one by one and discuss them. That's not the way Lex does his show. So my question to you is, what is a fair criticism of Lex's handling of this interview? And what the hell is going on with Donald Trump slurring? Let me know what you think. Please make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel at YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, it just from the point of view of somebody just watching an interview, I don't think the interview was good. I like Lex Fridman. One of my favorite Lex Fridman ones was him doing the 1984 book review. I thought he did it in a very good way. He's a very intellectual person. I like Lex Fridman, but first, the interview was just not good. It was boring. It was slow. The two people, it was a lot like Elon talking to Donald Trump. It was hard to listen to. But other than that, I just don't think that's the proper place for Donald Trump to be giving an interview as running for the president of the United States. It's not there. This is what I would say. Interviews do need to be mildly combative when you are interviewing a presidential candidate. They do need pushback of some sort. Because if we're talking about somebody that's going to lead the United States of America, we need somebody that can take questions that may be mildly abrasive. They don't need to be over the top. But questions that can be mildly abrasive, that can put you on your heels, that can make you feel a little uncomfortable. Because I guarantee you Putin's not going to be tossing softballs out there. Kim Jong-un isn't. Xi Jinping isn't. Even our allies aren't going to be doing that. It just seemed really out of place. All right, let's check it out. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, all of the Trump's rallies are being held in sundown towns. It's like he's getting his maggots ready for his loss and going to repeat January 6th. One of the things that I'm learning from this Broken Badges and White Robes book with Joe Moore is he makes the point in the book that all of these KKK klaverns, their individual klaverns, are all geared up for a potential civil war. And they are agitators. And this is going back to, I think his story begins in, 2006. He was involved in the potential assassination of Barack Obama. He actually foiled it by making claims that it wasn't safe for them to do it, and they chose not to, which insanely actually ended up in the KKK numbers exploding from recruitment due to Obama's election and re-election in 2012. But one of the things that he makes very apparent in the book is that he goes into this guy's into his compound, and there are boxes and boxes of AK-47s that have been converted to automatic weapons. There are flak jackets, bulletproof vests. that are literally stacked from floor to ceiling inside of this compound. He talks about the house of the guy that he goes to, and the house is an electric fence with barbed wire on top that you have to be buzzed into. And then even when you're buzzed into it, the door to the guy's house is reinforced with steel and is made of this really heavy material, that the walls are concrete and super thick, so that way small arms fire can't make it through it. And this is the guy's house. This is where he lives. Like he said, he was like, this would be a very formidable place that if the ATF or FBI were to attempt to apprehend this guy, they wouldn't want to try to do it here. They would be in for a fight. I'm also rewatching the Waco, Texas thing with David Koresh on Netflix. And that's another great example of the ATF lost 4 people attempting to raid David Koresh's compound. Mind you, they did have a heads up due to some very unfortunate circumstances. But I think there's something like 75 ATF members that were trying to storm that house, and 4 of them were killed. Many others were wounded, and they were actually fought off by the Branch Davidians, who weren't exactly a bunch of people that are trained to do this stuff. So, kind of opening my eyes a little bit more to, like, I sincerely don't believe that it would, if there was like, if Trump loses, that there's going to be this like civil war that's the size of what you saw in the original Civil War. I think that it will be much more like domestic terrorism type of stuff. I think that it will be instigated by Ku Klux Klan members. One of the best things about that is that Ku Klux Klan members don't really communicate between Klaverns, because they're considered the invisible empire, and so they want it so that way if one Clavern gets arrested, they can't rat out others. So that's actually beneficial to what's going on. But yeah, in reading this book, it actually is making me feel more as though what Cajun just said is very valid, and that is that Donald Trump seems to be going to these certain specific towns and giving the stand back and stand by orders. You know, like he goes into how a lot of these KKK members, after Biden was elected or at the end of Trump's term, became members of the Oath Keeper, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers, how these people went off into these other places. So when people say things along the lines of like they gaslight you and say, we're not racist, you guys just always call us racist, all that stuff. The Proud Boys aren't racist, they're patriots. No, they're racist. They're literally used to be KKK members. So yeah, they're racist. Yeah, he knows where he's going. Like I said, like you can only do something so many times before it's no longer just coincidence. It's not coincidence anymore. I actually want to watch this one. Let's watch this video, Andrew Callahan's video on the RFK rally. I think this is before, obviously, RFK had decided to support Donald Trump, so it's a little bit older. I like Andrew Callahan. I don't know if you guys like Andrew Callahan, but I like Andrew Callahan. Ever since Crip Mac. He sucked me in with the Crip Mac video because it made me feel like my childhood. But I love Andrew Callahan. I think he has some like really cool videos, and this is one on an RFK rally.
COVID, they thought they had the keys to the kingdom. They thought they had brainwashed all of us, and they were going to be able to shut down society, right, make remote schooling permanent, bring in central bank digital currencies, get rid of cash. This whole agenda that's kind of been revealed, they thought they were going to get all of it, but it didn't work because too many people rose up and stopped it. But Big Pharma has been doing these scares for a long time, and when they do that, primarily it's pumping.
Hold on, look at the look. The look is the best.
Stopped it. But Big Pharma has...
That's my look. When I know I have made the mistake of engaging with somebody that has like the entirety of their conspiracy theory mapped out from beginning to finish, that's the look I usually have. Oh shit. We gonna be here for a while. Oh, good time.
Been doing these scares for a long time, and when they do that, primarily
I think that's
it's
hilarious,
pump and
Dana.
dump. It's pump up a stock price, get the federal government to give a ton of money to a big pharma corporation, get that stock price high, get all this vaccine or drugs or whatever out there, try to get as many people to take it as possible. And if they don't take it, they ship it all off to black and brown countries. And if they take it, fine. And if they don't take it, they throw it away. They don't care. They've made their money. So I'm not scared of monkeypox, bird flu, chicken pox. I mean, whatever it is they're saying we need.
Dude, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. You should be scared of monkeypox, dog. Look, I'm approaching the age where certain vaccines will be suggested to me. One of them is the shingles vaccine. I'm taking that shit. I don't know if you guys ever had. Some of you might have had shingles. All right, you ever seen somebody that has shingles? That shit is no joke, bruh. I might go next. I got a checkup coming in a couple months. I might just ask for the shingles vaccine now.
To be scared of now, because most of these are really just pump and dump schemes. They're just trying to take public money and give it to big pharma.
We will have our new 1776 moment, and we will rise above the low vibration, fear, division, and hate that is propagated by the uniparty.
Well, that's a hell of a way to say hate, my friend. Let's try that one more time. Let's give him one more shot at it.
We will have our new 1776 moment, and we will rise above the low vibration, fear, division, and hate that is propagated by the uniparty, the Republicans and the Democrats. My name's Kyle Kemper,
50?
child of
That's
the
how
earth.
long I have to wait?
I have a bus called the Kennedy bus.
My friend Kamala is coming up on one of the last major
Barack.
fundraising
What up,
deadlines
buddy?
before Election Day.
High five.
So when I say that your donation will go a
This guy, I will say this. If I remember right, this guy was pretty upset that Kennedy suspended his run to be president. If I remember right, if this is the right dude, he was pretty upset that Kennedy did suspend his presidency.
Can I hop in?
Yeah,
you want to be
Cajun.
taken
I
seriously
want
by,
nothing to do with
you know,
that.
the Guardian. You want to kind of rise into that.
Big paper, London, 9th largest English language publication in the world, The Guardian.
You need to close the chapter on this ski mask.
Do you guys understand that we're in the year 2024 and we have exponential technologies all around us?
Those of us who feel that way have no home other than Bobby's campaign in this election cycle.
People like yourselves are finally fed up.
My first cause was ending the war on drugs. It started...
I like that Kennedy's talking shit about Kamala not being able to commit a sentence. Like, look, I'm not an ableist, guys, all right? I'm going to stand up here and talk shit about people for being handicapped and stuff. But if you're going to, like, talk shit about somebody being able to, like, complete a sentence, you better not have a fucked up vocal situation. You can't be out there sounding like you choking on, like, 7 dicks. And talk about how people can't finish sentences.
In some part as sort of a selfish thing, right? It was a recognition in my own life of the roles
Happy birthday,
that
Alan.
cannabis and psychedelics had played, and how early in my life I realized I had already been lied to about something very deep and fundamental. You could almost look at it like magnetism or something. There's a certain amount of like, and if you can overcome that force enough, you can get out of its thrall, its force. You can just outside of the window of that magnet's stickiness, and all of a sudden, it falls away actually quite quickly. But how do you cut through? How do you reach somebody where they're at when they're in such an extreme fear state, and that's holding their worldview in place? We talk about the issues.
My favorite thing is that everything they say sounds like they're talking about themselves. It's crazy.
Via a specific personality and try to align them as the perfect avatar of issues.
I love this guy right here. One thing I learned about working with Vice President Harris is she always stand on business.
That whole paradigm is based on identifying the adversary by the worst possible caricature you can point at them. And then as an in-group activity, deciding that that is an accurate portrayal of that other person or group.
Like, I would be... I don't know, how, like I said, how old this video is. I would want to see what this guy thinks now that he's joined Trump. Like, I want to see the follow-up interview with this guy with what he's saying right now, because I genuinely think a lot of people that, well, maybe not a lot. I don't know what the percentage of these people were. But I do think that certain people wanted to follow RFK because they didn't know anything about his real politics. They don't really know much about him. He's got a lot of name recognition. And they thought, you know, hey, he's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's an independent. And, you know, you kind of think of it the same way that people that wanted to vote for Cornel West, who's wacky as fuck now, apparently. Or Jill Stein, who's also getting wackier by the fucking day now. Why are all these people going crazy? Anyways, Like, I think some of these people, like, you know what dude's saying about, like, the war on drugs and stuff like that. Like, there is a basic amount of things that conspiracy theorists believe that I also believe, that we cross over on, right? It's generally, like, what the solution is or what the root cause of the problem is that we tend to have disagreements on. But when you go from saying all of the things that this guy is saying about how, like, you know, like they demonize their opponent, they make them the adversary and all those things, like that should say 100% that if RFK joins either one of the political parties and feels that the demonization of their opponent is bad, then he shouldn't be supporting RFK at this point. I would like to see a follow-up interview with this guy and see if he still says these things.
And then the campaign promises, they never really come deeply, deeply into play. And by the way, independents just became, I believe, 51% of the electorate. So we're already the largest voting bloc. The only thing keeping us out is the self-fulfilling prophecy from repeated messaging that there is no chance.
Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying, let's go, holding a fundraiser in Chicago.
My name's Michael Caine. I'm a former New York City public school teacher, but I was fired because I didn't get the COVID shot. And when that happened...
they all have an origin story. That is like the craziest thing. Is like every one of these people have an origin story. Like, oh, this happened, or, you know, and it's like, I understand, like, that your history creates who you are. But, like, my history hasn't pushed me into the arms of, like, a certain person to be, like, my leader, right? Like, I don't look at Kamala Harris as, like, some kind of, like, amazing person that's going to do all these things for me and create, like, I see her as potential, right? Like, she has the potential to do good things. Her policies, they appeal to me. The idea of taking care of the middle class, the idea of getting rid of, you know, medical debt to help to create something like single payer health insurance. The thing that just came out about her wanting to increase small business incentivization from $5,000 to $50,000. The fact that Joe Biden's administration has already created something like 19 million new small businesses, then that hers is projected to create as many as 25 million new small businesses. Like, those are things that appeal to me for sure, and that is because of my background, because I come from poverty and I am now middle class. But that doesn't push me into her arms, right? Like, I've said this before, in 2024, when Kamala Harris is elected, I plan to be here and to hold her accountable for the things that she said. And if she's incapable of following through with those things, then, you know, when re-election comes around, I won't support her. Like, that's going to be my standpoint on that. Like, this idea that you had one thing that happened in your life where you were fired from your job because you chose not to get vaccinated because you were going to put other elderly teachers at risk, other immunocompromised people at risk because you felt like, you know, you should be allowed to be that selfish. Well, like, if that created like this entire like political ideology for you, like, to me that just seems crazy. It just seems crazy to me.
The only person who really stuck up for me was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He backed my lawsuits through Children's Health Defense, and we've been suing for over 3 years now. And it really was an important thing for my family. And when he announced he was running for president, I was all in right away. So that's why I'm here.
Free
I love you all equally.
Palestine in our lifetime. Liberation is coming tomorrow, basically. Yep. I saw you at the protest. Who are you?
Yes, I'm Saddam with Channel 5.
Are you pro-Palestinian?
I'm pro-Palestinian.
Hell yeah, one-state solution. Free Palestine.
Well, Bobby believes in a two-state solution. He believes that there's two people there with two national identities.
And once again, even with that stuff, like, for me, like, if it's strange to me, and some of you guys will disagree with me about this, but it's strange to me to create your entire personality around a single policy, right? So, like, if you're free Palestine, like, I support you. You know, if you're like, hey, you know, Israel had a right to defend itself, and what happened to them on October 7th was, you know, a tragedy as well. Those people were innocent and didn't deserve to die either. I support you. Like, you should be able to have a more nuanced idea of who you are as a person and what you believe than just it boiling down to one single historical thing happening. It's strange to me. I think people should be more nuanced than that. But
that both need their rights respected.
Put into the centrist area.
That's his opinion on it.
How do you feel about Trump?
I've never supported Trump or voted for Trump before. Personally, I'm not a fan.
Did Joe Rogan just make an endorsement in the 2024 election?
They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you.
See, this is what I'm saying is, like, I would support these guys if they stood by their beliefs and said, you know what? I love RFK Jr. I think he stands for the things that I wanted him to stand for. But because he's now chosen to instead support Donald Trump, who I don't support, I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he could be a good president. I can't support RFK supporting him. Instead, I will now try to find a candidate that still has my policy values instead to vote for. Like, I would support that. But if you go from RFK Jr. is different than both of these people, and then now I'm going to support Trump because RFK Jr. does, that to me is like insanity. That means that you don't really have policy values. That means that, like I said before, if Kamala Harris right now started saying things like, you know what, actually at the end of the day, we're going to start cutting regulations. We're going to start supporting the 1%. We're going to, small businesses are going to have to fend for themselves. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris if she says those things. Like, that's not my style.
They manipulate you. They promote narratives. The only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
RFK Jr. then tweeted out that clip, captioning it in part, quote, "From one legitimate guy to another, thank you, Joe Rogan,
That's like
for
literally
always
me.
putting substance first."
Just 2 hours later, Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "It'll be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring. MAGA 2024.
He is not as bad as Kamala Harris is. He does respect some of our freedoms and some individual rights that I do appreciate.
What up, He-Hearts?
But, recently it was revealed and exposed in the press that he played a big role in getting $60 billion approved for the Ukraine war behind the scenes, getting congressmen to vote for it. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign to me for what a second Trump administration.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you're against funding to Ukraine, once again, we can have the discussion. I'm for funding for Ukraine. But if you want to sit here and say to me that you're against the funding of Ukraine, and then that Donald Trump he sold, $47 million worth of Javelin missiles back in 2017 to Ukraine long before Joe Biden was even in office. Like, my question is, are you 10 toes down? Are you standing on your policies? Are you going to say all of these things, and then the moment that Donald Trump or RFK is supporting Donald Trump, do you switch? Because at that point, like, you're suspect to me. At that point, it's weird to me. Like, it's strange to me to watch a bunch of people that claim that the politics of the left are to demonize the right, to be divisive, to be polarizing. And the reason they don't support him is because of these things. And they don't believe that we should be sending our money over Ukraine. But then RFK joins up and they're like, well, now we support Donald Trump. Well, then you're full of shit. You don't believe any of the things that you just said that you believe. You only want RFK to be in office, Donald Trump to be in office, or Kamala Harris not to be in office. That is what you believe. There is no policy.
Administration might mean, but there's no question. The biggest threat we have right now is the DNC and Kamala Harris.
They just get manipulated by
someone told me the other day?
Yeah. Dude, why do I keep getting Heritage Foundation commercials? They're trying to get me, guys.
The Kamala, you know what the root meaning of her name is? Snake. Now, I don't know her personally.
Oh, God. These people, dude. This poor man. Look at him. Look at this poor man. He's just standing there. Like, he said that with his chest. He was so confident in that. He's like, boom, fucking owned. This is like when Trump goes, Barack Hussein Obama. You are a simple fucking person. if somebody says a word and you're like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, God, I need a new pair of pants. Boy, he got him with that one. You guys know that? And you know these people that watch this shit. These people that like see that man saying that. They go and repeat that shit. It's not bad enough that this guy's a fucking simpleton, but then this dude has people that see him say that shit and they're like, this motherfucker is spitting. Dude, you know how many of my friends I'm going to tell about that? Like, there are so many people now that have been attacked with information that came from this man's mouth. There is somebody right now smoking a joint, supposed to pass it. They're holding the mic, and they're going, bro, do you know what the root of Kamala's name is? Oh, I'm sorry. Kamala's name is? Snake. Fucking it. Hey, dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. It's Snake. Crazy, right? No, it's not crazy. You're an idiot. You're just an idiot. Jesus Christ. These simple people. They're simple people.
You know what someone told me the other day? That Kamala, you know what the root meaning of her name is? Snake. Now, I don't know her personally, and I'm not trying to say that, I know her character.
Now we know who pays AG. I don't get paid. I'm still trying to get paid.
Anything Democratic, the policies are absolutely atrocious.
Oxford, I used to hold it.
Go to Detroit. Go to the south side of Chicago. Go to Baltimore. Go to some of these Democratic cities that have been run by Democrats for decades.
Yeah, no doubt. There are bad places all over the place, man. And there are very nuanced reasons for why all these places have the problems they have. And this is what I'm saying. I don't have any problem talking about those things. Because I think if we actually had conversations instead of just trying to blame each other on all this shit, you might actually get to a point where we could actually solve some of these problems. But he ain't going to finish with the solution. He's not going to prescribe anything other than that RFK or Donald Trump will solve this. And guess what? There's been plenty of RFKs. There's been plenty of Donald Trump. Well, I don't know about that. There's been one Donald Trump. 4 years of that one Donald Trump was enough for me to go ahead and say it ain't going to work.
And that's all you need to look at.
Let's talk about the name Kamala. Now, Kamala is derived from the Sanskrit word Kamal, which means the lotus flower. It symbolizes resilience, persistence.
This lady's like, stop shitting on my people. Some white dude somewhere. That's my trailer park people right there. He like, it means snake. You know that? It means snake. Yeah, you should be scared of her because of that.
Humility.
She just hit it.
And inner strength.
My name's Kevin. I'm an actor and activist here in Chicago. And I'm all for free speech. You could definitely call me a civil libertarian.
This is one of the places that I'll agree with these guys. I think Kennedy should have been allowed to debate. I think that the rules surrounding debates are bullshit. I think that people should be allowed to get on stage. Like I said before, when Trump supporters come into my chat, I let them talk because I want people to see the dumb shit they say. I want people to know why I don't agree with them. I want them to see the crazy comments that they make and go, woo, no thank you. I don't want to be associated with that. Right there. I think Kennedy should have been allowed to debate. I think they should let him on the stage.
So I say, let's hear the views. If people have perspectives, let's share them. America's about free speech. Let's exercise it.
I heard that
the 2025 is trying to catch me.
Bean.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear what. Say it again.
He made the bean.
What's that?
The RFK bean.
I'm just not understanding what you're saying.
Robert F. Kennedy was part of the bean. Making the bean.
Robert F. Kennedy, the father, or the was what?
I'm not sure. It was part of making the bean. We had the RFK bean. This is day
the
2
bean.
of the DNC. We're at the RFK bean. As you can see, it's a beautiful bean. The Frijol, as they say in California. I bet you $100 the Guardian can't come over here and record shit at the fucking bean.
The bean? Oh, I don't know anything about that. I can tell you about the bean, though. The bean is actually also known as the Cloud Gate.
Yeah, how Sparks.
The Cloud Gate, and it's right over there. It's a beautiful art piece We call it the Bean affectionately here in Chicago. That's the thing about Chicago. We've got so much to share.
Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN. Boom, you're in there. A fantastic VPN service that allows you to serve.
Okay, we're not going to watch your whole commercial because it's probably super long. Okay, but yeah, NordVPN, guys. Andrew Callahan's good guy. Okay, like and subscribe to his channel. Also, NordVPN. I'm not being paid for this. No one pays me. No one pays me anything. I have no fear of being outed for being a Russian plant. Ain't nobody giving me money.
There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, guys, back to the streets.
Join this movement and declare your independence. Bobby Kennedy, he's a modern Renaissance man, knowing that his father was killed and his uncle was killed for trying to be that Jedi, to trying to be that change agent.
Like, this is my problem with this argument, though. Just because his dad did stuff, just because his uncle did stuff, doesn't mean that RFK Jr. is anything like them. Anything like them. Like Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time, right? Okay, and you can fight me on this, LeBron James fans, Bill Russell fans, okay? You can fight me on that. Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time. How many of his kids ended up being great basketball players in the NBA? How many of his kids ended up being, you know, the highest scorers? Speaking of LeBron James, tell me this right now. Would Bronny Jr. have been selected by the Lakers if it wasn't for his dad? Because you can say that each one of these people have certain similarities to their parents or their uncles or whatever it is, and that's perfectly fine. You can say RFK Jr. has it in him to be one of these people. But the thing about greatness, the thing about JFK, the thing about Jordan, the thing about Joe Montana, you don't replicate greatness just because you're in the family. You might have it in you, but that don't mean that you're going to be great. And I'm sorry, but it seems like to me RFK Jr.'s got a little inner family envy going on, where he feels like he deserves the right to be somebody in these spheres because of who his family is. But I think that gets you through the door, but it doesn't mean you get to stay at the party. Like once you're inside, you got to prove yourself. You got to entertain. You got to show people that you got to bring some goddamn beer. I don't think that means that you get to automatically be president because you're a Kennedy.
For him to step in and say, you know what, the Jedis are returning, it's a very powerful thing.
Do you feel like he's being silenced?
I'm going for it, Don.
The media
One day I'll make money.
Has an ownership structure of a very few companies owning a very large amount of affiliates, and they present themselves.
Yeah, see, like this is the stuff that I agree with, right? And this is what I'm saying is like I 100% agree with the things that he's saying here. Does he still believe these things now that Donald Trump, who allowed Rupert Murdoch to enrich himself by several more $1 billion during Trump's presidency by allowing yet another merger, is a better president than Joe Biden, whose FTC is currently suing people like Google for being a monopoly, suing people like Kroger's for trying to merge with Albertsons and take over a large portion of the retail market, suing people like Meta for being a monopoly, suing people like Nvidia and Apple for being monopolies. If you believe this stuff here, if you believe that large corporations owning portions of our society and being able to lobby, you should be against Citizens United. You should be supportive of Joe Biden's administration because it's the most antitrust administration that we have had perhaps in like 50 years. Like, if this man can agree to those things, then we got something to talk about.
Generally as being objective, but there's a subjective leaning to it, and you can see the scripting across all the different channels as well, and the messaging. Lately, we saw the weird message from the liberal media towards Trump.
These guys are just weird. That's really.
I started that. Tim Walz kind of got on the train a little bit late, and I think he probably got it because maybe he watched my channel a couple times. I started the weird movement. I said it first.
They are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power. And we've also seen Kamala being painted as joyful.
I got a friend from Ohio who hates LeBron.
She seems to have really grown as a candidate.
What you see now is someone who is embracing her own joy. Now, that also happens to be a fantastic strategy as Trump is out there as the horseman of the apocalypse.
So they program these messages. It's called television for a reason.
This guy who's sitting here spouting off a bunch of stuff that I've heard multitudes of people spout off believes that other people are programmed and he's not. That's the point of being media literate, is that you understand that. Yes, the idea of anything, whether it's politics or corporation, is branding. They want to brand themselves as the party of joy. They want to push the idea that they are the opposite of fear, anger, and hate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's your problem if you listen to something and you are duped by it. As I said before, if Kamala Harris gets into office and becomes a goddamn tyrant or starts becoming Communist Kamala, I'm obviously going to be like, it don't matter how many times you say joy, dog. It ain't working, all right? Like, that's the fucking point that these people miss over and over and over and over again. You're projecting your insecurities. You're like, if they say a word too much, I might get brainwashed. Yeah, you might. But you've already been brainwashed just by somebody else's words. This is why media literacy is so important. Understanding what people are trying to gain by giving you the information that they're disseminating to you. If you know the goal, if you know, like Kamala Harris wants you to vote for her. Why does she want you to vote for her? Because she wants to show you that she's the opposite of Donald Trump. Okay, let's look into her. You shouldn't vote for her just because she says joy over and over and over again. You should say, that sounds like a pretty good message. Tell me more. Let's take a look at what your strategy is. Let's take a look at your policies. Let's look at your history. And that's what I did. And to be honest with you, I had a really negative outlook on Kamala Harris because of where I come from, because of her being a prosecutor, because I have very little love for that type of mentality. And I ended up changing my opinion because I looked into it and was like, actually, she looks like a pretty good person. Out of those 1,500 people that they claim that she put in prison over marijuana, only 45 of them went. Most of them got put in rehab programs. She started a program that police forces across the country now use to rehabilitate these people that has led to a lower amount of recidivism in these incarcerated people that committed crimes for the first time. She sued huge corporations and won money from them for everyday people. She sued Comcast for releasing people's private information. She did things that, in my opinion, were good things. She can say joy a million fucking times. That's not what got me.
Tell a vision. And it comes through the channels and the programs. Recognize the media is trying to control your mind. They do not want you to think with your own brain. They want to tell you how to feel and how to think and what to be afraid of. Yeah, it's going to be getting pretty crazy, Cajun. It is frankly ridiculous, and it is.
But that's what I'm saying, Cajun, is exactly what you just said. Problem is, now we have to worry about AI. We will have a hard time figuring it out. Or if it is real, is like, my main concern is that there are people throughout society, regardless of political affiliation, across the board. There might be more people on one side or the other. There might be more people in certain like enclaves that are much more susceptible to it. But if people are already falling for shit before AI, imagine how bad these people are going to get once AI is to the point, and it isn't going to be that far off, where it can trick these people. Like, that's my concern. My main concern is, I was just watching a guy. If you guys don't know who, Unsolicited Advice. You should check out his channel sometime. He's a philosopher. So I believe that your policy values should be grounded in your philosophy values, right? Or the values of your philosophy. So my policy values are grounded in what I think philosophically about humans and what we're doing here and what we're trying to accomplish. So I like to watch Unsolicited Advice because he has these really cool videos that talk about like why you hate work in the modern society. And some of the things that he talks about are really important because things like AI are changing the way that people look at things. And he has a video where he talks about how the information overload of what we have now. There's a paper that was written by a guy named Han. I can't remember what his ethnicity is or where he comes from, but he wrote a essay about information in social media and how social media has created this look at me society where people want to be known as the first person to say things. They don't care if it's right or not. And then you have a set of people that are willing to disregard the fact that they're right or not based off of whether or not they like those people and want to accept the information. Like, it's a really good video. If I get a chance, I'll link it to you guys. It's amazing.
It's dangerous, and it is chaotic and deceptive. This is America. This land was founded on the principles of freedom and the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of elections. It was never intended to be a two-party system. That's where we stand today, is a vicious two-party system, and one of the parties is the Democratic Party and their version of democracy.
So I agree with it wasn't made to be a two-party system, and I actually heard Kevin Eastman's, it's not Eastman, Kevin Eastman. What is Eastman's first name? John Eastman? Is it John Eastman? Trump's lawyer that told him he could overturn the election. Trump's lawyer's lawyer, make America's lawyers get lawyers, Silverglade, was just debating Destiny the other day, and I was listening to it. And this is a guy who's representing John Eastman. So obviously he's not a guy that you'd find me agreeing like all the time with, but he has some really like core values that I agree with that are civil rights values. And he was talking about it. He was like, he literally said there should be 4 parties at this point. There should be a progressive party, there should be a Democratic Party, there should be a conservative party, and there should be a fascist party. And this is John Eastman's lawyer. Well, I guess he's his co-consultant. Sorry. He's one of his lawyers. And he said there should be a party of fascism because there are people that legitimately believe in fascism and they should be outed and they should stand 10 toes down saying they're fascists. So like when this guy says that it's not a two-party system or it shouldn't be a two-party system, I actually agree with that. And the reason that I agree with that is because of a person who is a lawyer for a person that I think literally tried to commit treason. This is what I'm saying is it's not the person that's bringing the information, it's the information in itself. And what he said made sense. Like, I agree with him. I think that there probably should be, as I've said before, parties that are moderates. The Democrats and Republicans should be moderates, and then they should have their outside influences, which I think the Democrats should be pushed by progressives. And I think that, personally, I think that Republicans should be pushed by libertarians. But this guy's saying that there aren't libertarians, that the idea of it really is that there's a bunch of fascists out there that are pushing the Republican Party. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's wrong.
Involves fighting to make sure
Trump
nobody else is on the ballot. They tried to put Trump in jail, and now they're actively trying to get Bobby off of the ballots. He's collected over 1 million signatures. 1 million signatures to get on the ballots across this country. And now the DNC, through their Clear Choice PAC, the CCP, is actively working to get Bobby off of the ballots. He was supposed to be here in Chicago, meeting with communities, doing engagements to actually understand the challenges that people of Chicago face. Instead, he's in a courtroom having to defend himself against nonsense charges being brought by the lawfare division of the Democratic Party.
And see, I would like to look more into what the actual like lawsuits are about. I would, because I don't want to speak on this without understanding like 100% like why they were brought and stuff like that. But if on like the most basic level, if it was just, you know, politics is a dirty game, so they do this kind of shit, I completely disagree with it. For one thing, I completely disagree with it because as you're seeing now, we all know that Kennedy was, in my opinion, going to pull much more votes from Donald Trump than they were from any Democratic candidate, whether it was Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. So, like, I'm 100% against it because I don't believe it's democratic to try and keep people off. I don't like how dirty of a game that politics are, even though I understand that they are. And I also believe that he would have taken votes away from Trump. So I need to look more into the information in the underlying facts of the lawsuits to really have like an actual, like, well thought out opinion on whether or not I think that it's appropriate for them to be trying to keep him off the vote or off the ballot. But like, just on a very basic level, I think that he should have been allowed.
Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was seen leaving the Albany County Courthouse Thursday following closing arguments on a case to keep him off the ballot.
I wish Kamala and Bob.
I do think it's hilarious that they're keeping him on the ballots now, though. Because RFK Jr. came out and just straight up said it. I'm going to stay on the ballot in battleground states to attempt to subvert democracy. I'm going to do the very thing that they're constantly complaining about the Democrats doing. This is, in my opinion, I think it's fucking hilarious that they're forcing him to stay on the ballots. I laughed so
Bobby could have a debate.
What charges are they bringing up against him?
They're challenging the validity of his signatures. It's an easy thing. They have the opportunity to do that. It is election interference at the core.
CNN may...
Oh, is that the same thing that Donald Trump was doing?
They have violated campaign finance laws, according to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign.
There was a debate commission. The debates were supposed to happen in September. Instead, the Uniparty, the Democrats and the Republicans, decided we're going to hold debates earlier and we're just going to work with our media partners. So the Republicans chose CNN with the Democrats to do that fake debate with Joe Biden. It was entirely set up so that Joe Biden would look bad because he can't debate. He's unfit for office.
See, this is what I'm saying. Like, I can literally listen to people and they're like, dude, a bunch of corporations owning all of the media is bad. And I'm like, yes, you are right. And they're like, RFK should be allowed on the debate stage. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. And they're like, it's messed up that they're going to keep the vote or keep him off the ballots or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'll look more into that. And then they're like, they set up a debate on CNN on purpose to make Joe Biden look bad so that way they can replace her with Kamala Harris and keep RFK off the ballot. And I'm like, see? You did it again. You guys are fucking nuts, man. You guys are nuts.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you,
President Trump. And so that set up the movement of the candidate from Biden to Harris. And Harris was not elected. She is fully selected. She did not win any primaries. She lost to Joe Biden in the last one.
She didn't lose to anybody in the last one. This is, once again, like the craziness that it's like it's so easy to just Google this shit. She dropped out before the primaries. She didn't lose to anybody. She wasn't in the primary. She became his vice presidential candidate at the end, and most likely the reason that she was chosen was because she did drop out before the primaries, because she did concede to Joe Biden. At the end of the day, you can complain about how Kamala Harris was selected, but there was nothing undemocratic about it. And if you don't understand how bad of an idea it would be to attempt to have like an open convention, like people were talking about, and having this instability within the Democratic Party, which, by the way, once again, you notice there's not a single Democrat that's complaining about Kamala Harris being elected. There's not a single Democrat that's getting pissed off that she was nominated. It's all right-wing talking points and RFK supporters. I was willing to vote for Kamala Harris in 2020. She was my pick. I thought she did a great job. I think that most people right now in the Democratic Party are extremely happy that Kamala Harris was selected. This is like I said, this is where right-wing talking points attempt to infiltrate left-wing circles, attempting to seem logical, so that way left-wing people will speak to left-wing people and tell them how they fucked up within their own party, so that way they eat their own. And they're right. Left-wing people eat their own all the goddamn time. So it's a valid strategy, but it ain't working on me.
And now she is being anointed here in Chicago.
As one people, we are moving forward.
She will not do an interview with you. She will not do an interview with Channel 5 News. She will not do a long-form podcast.
Dude, how many of these things have you guys heard over and over and over again in the last month? And this guy was just sitting there saying that the government's trying to brainwash you by using the word joy over and over again. They're just always saying joy. We have heard these talking points on this channel ad nauseum for the last 2 months. He's saying everything that every person that believes the same shit as he does has said.
With a Joe Rogan or a Russell Brand or even a Piers Morgan or even a Dana Bash or anything like that. She does not. Exactly. She will not engage. So how do I feel about her? I do not believe she is qualified whatsoever to be the president of the United States of America if she's not willing to even simply engage in a debate or even a press conference. I mean, come on, folks.
This guy's an idiot. This is where I get with this. I'm like, bro, we could have had a, not like he's going to have a conversation with me, but we could have had a conversation on the first half of the shit that he was talking about, and then he just goes completely off the rails. A president sitting on CNN, when you say that CNN is full of shit, you say CNN is mainstream media, CNN sucks, CNN's corrupt, and then you're like, she doesn't sit down with CNN. What? You want her to take time out of campaigning? Like she's never given an interview, first of all. First of all, she's given plenty of interviews off the cuff with people after rallies. Already that's happened. But the idea that she's going to stop campaigning when she literally just joined the race a month ago, she's going to stop campaigning, going from state to state in these battleground states, and holding rallies that are super important to help her to get to know the people there, that she should instead give an interview to Andrew Callahan? I like Andrew, but he ain't worth her time. She gonna rally. She gonna campaign. That's what you're supposed to do. And if you're too fucking stupid to recognize that that's why she's doing it, then all the shit you said before, I should just go ahead and just discount as well. Because he's not a very smart person.
What got you into Robert Kennedy?
Everybody in the Kennedy campaign is coming from one of the other big parties. So nobody agrees on anything. That much I'll tell you. But we all agree in this. A two-party system is busted. We're either choosing this side, which is beholden to the government or the corporate interests, or we're choosing that side and they're beholden to a different set of corporate interests. Kennedy is all about fighting the impact of businesses within the government. He calls it corporate capture. There's a massive amount of regulation that is driven by a business interest.
The pharmaceutical industry, the oil industry, the coal industry, the chemical industry, which I've seen firsthand throughout my career. Each of their agencies are captured. They become sock puppets for the industry they're supposed to regulate.
Now listen,
and see, things like that, I agree with. It's the crazy shit. Like I said, this is the fucking insanity of these people. It's just good point, great point. And it's so we have to stop the deep state corruption and it's well, hold on, how about we start with let's start with a simple idea of fixing this shit and then work our way towards the crazy stuff. That's all I'm asking for. I'm
a business owner, and I understand what it means to try to drive your business, but
Is
our
it a
water's not clean.
My wife and I actually recently started getting all of our dairy and meat from an Amish farm. So this
is what I'm telling you guys. If RFK gets into any administration, I'm gonna be rich. Y'all ain't gonna see me on here anymore because I'm gonna be too busy in the industry that I work in. I'm gonna be too busy. I'm gonna have if RFK and I'm not for that. I don't want that. That's not what I want. It's bad for the country. Like, I do think you guys should start eating healthier, though, just so you guys know. Like, you guys should start eating healthier.
There's no additives. It's all grass-fed, which is even better than organic, which is fed with some vegetable feeds that can be off and such as well, too. And that's literally something they want to stop. They want to stop us from choosing to be able to eat more natural and stuff. Yeah.
Before.
No, and that's not true. As a person that works in the industry, nobody is stopping you from eating organic. Nobody is stopping you from buying healthy foods. That's actually not true. There's zero effect on my ability to sell you products. In fact, to be honest with you, if I'm being 100, the supplement industry needs to be regulated. Like, it needs to be regulated. There needs to be more studies done on these products, because there are a lot of people out there that purchase products because they think that they do certain things. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a certain set of laws called the Deshay laws that make it so that way people in my industry aren't allowed to tell people like this guy that, like, you know, apricot kernels cure cancer. Like, I literally will have people that come in and they say, I want this product because I heard it does this thing. And we have to be very careful about saying things like, we can't say that that does that. If you'd like me to point you towards the product, you can take a look at it. And if it's something that you're interested in, we do sell that product here. But we have to be very careful. And one of the reasons that we're very careful about that is not because of laws, because we're honest, because we want people to actually like benefit from the products. I myself have taken many supplements. For stamina, I've attempted to improve my cardiovascular health by taking things like cordyceps. Did it work? I don't know, to be honest with you. I've taken a lot of different supplements. I've eaten a lot of whey protein in my life for lifting. When I'm lifting, a lot of whey protein. You know, like, there needs to be studies on all of these things, and the lack of regulation in the supplement industry is actually really scary, because there are times where I have seen supplements having to be recalled for contamination and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the pharmaceutical industry. Obviously it does. But I'm just saying that when this guy says something along the lines of they're trying to stop you from getting this stuff, it's actually almost the opposite. It's almost the opposite.
Rob or Bobby, did you lean more to the left or to the right?
What do you think?
Seriously,
I'm pretty conservative.
Seriously, I'm
pretty conservative. Yeah. And it's tough because I was a big Trump voter.
It's really weird, Mike, because all of these people, like 5 years ago, if I would have said, like, hey, like, you should shop at my store. Grass-fed beef is actually much better for you. Like, the stuff that you're getting from, you know, these factory-farmed cattle, you know, first of all, it's just really shitty what they do to these cows. If you've ever seen any of the Food Inc. videos, you know, about how some of these cows are, like, super sick, and then they kill them, and then they feed you the meat from these, like, sick cows. Just the fact that corn-fed cows have, like, a much higher fat content, and that's not good for you cardiovascularly. Like, all of these things that, like, I could go off on for a really long time. Like, these people, these same people that are sitting here talking right now, 5 years ago would have been like, bro, I'm not paying that much money for that. That's too expensive. And I'd say, well, yeah, you're paying for your health. You're paying for smaller farms. You're supporting smaller businesses. That's what you're supposed to be about, you know? Like, and most of these people would have been like, I'm not paying that much money for that. All of a sudden, all these people now are jumping on that train. It's like insane to see. It's weird to see like this 180 that people have done about these things.
And I was a big supporter. Not the right demeanor for today. Kennedy brings them back together on both sides, man. I could sit down with somebody who's a super lefty and a super right person in the middle. We're all locking arms. We're all charging forward. It's amazing. I think Kamala's fine. You want to be honest, right? She was my number one choice on the Democratic side when I was watching stuff in 2020, because I kind of like where she was going. She's a little bit heavy on the criminal justice side. It's not quite where I would want to be. I'd be a little bit more to the left on that side.
When we're talking about serious and violent crime, lock them up. In San Francisco, in my office, we've increased the conviction rates for the DA's office to the highest they've been in just under 15 years.
How do you feel about Trump's campaign?
You got to get people riled up in order to drive motivation, but it feels dirty. You don't need to talk like he talks in order to get your point across.
People say, be nice. Have you heard her laugh? That is the laugh of a crazy person. That is the laugh of a crazy.
That's what
it's
I'm
the
saying.
laugh of a
so
lunatic.
Nuts, dude. He's
Have you
so
heard?
Nuts.
And listen, man, I liked a lot of his policies. I could tell you which treaties I love that he got out of. I could tell you which judges I loved. But man, you know, you got to be a better guy.
What policies are the ones that you're most interested in right now?
Big one for me is ending what Kennedy calls the forever wars, where we're there in Afghanistan for 20 years with no business being there. It's a big deal for me. $8 trillion of increase in the debt. It's only going to be eclipsed by Biden. He'll get to 9 by the time he's done.
No,
that causes inflation that is insanely high. So for me, I'm going to...
He's wrong about that because he doesn't understand that the policies like the Infrastructure Act and Inflation Reduction Act have actually brought back a large portion of the $1.6 trillion that Biden has brought back in. Biden funding the IRS to the tune of $80 billion is actually going to recoup itself very easily, and you're probably looking at something like $500 billion over the next 10 years if the tax code continues in the same ideas as what Biden's doing right now if Kamala gets elected. See, this is where, like, I don't have anything against this guy. This guy seems like he's attempting to have, like, a pretty good opinion of the thing, and he seems like he's a little bit better educated on most of these things than most people. But I will still point out that this is why it's hard. This is why it's hard to be, like, an educated voter, is you're going to say something like Biden's going to reach $9 trillion in debt before he's out of office. But the only reason you think that is because somebody has told you that. Like, if you look at Biden's policies, you can see that a lot of things like Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act has actually added a ton of jobs, not as many as they thought apparently, but a ton of jobs to the American economy. It's been really influential in the green energy sector, which is where the next industrial revolution is going to happen when it comes to AI and green energy. When you look at things like the Chips and Science Act, bringing back semiconductors to America and their production coming back to America, like, when you say something like he's going to add over $9 trillion of debt, you don't completely understand how much money is being brought back from things like the Chips and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Infrastructure Act. Like, that's my main problem. But I think that, like, if I were talking to this guy here, I bet that we could have a good conversation on that. He doesn't seem like one of the craziest people that I've seen.
I'm going to do okay. My kids, my grandkids are going to have a problem with that.
How do you feel about Kamala Harris?
I don't like her at all. Every time she speaks, she doesn't have any policies. She sounds like she doesn't have a very good education. I'm also one of the vaccine injured. I spent like a week last year in the hospital. I ended up with an autoimmune disease. People think that he's anti-vax, but I think he's just pro-intelligence.
Bobby Kennedy supports medical freedom in totality. I decide what happens to my body. I decide what I put in myself.
He's also like pro-crypto and making sure that we all have our freedoms. And I don't know all the details about it because I'm not good at public speaking, but...
You did fine.
Thank you.
This is my message to all these people. 1 million nurses across America quit during COVID. Are they all crazy? No, they're...
That dude's face says it all again. Like, ma'am, I'm sorry, but yeah, they probably are. There are a lot of crazy people in America. I'm going to stand by that quote that I saw in that David Lipsky book where he talked about the English guy that came over. I think it was during the, was it during the 50s? Maybe the 30s? Because this is about electricity, so it was during the 30s. And he said, the English guy said, you come over to America, and he goes, and you realize these people are a very strange mixture of, like, felonious behaviors and innovation. And I actually think that was about as spot on as you can get. Americans as a whole, we are crazy as shit. We are aggressive. We have a lot of ideas. Some of them are very innovative. And some of them are just batshit crazy. That is America. That's why I love being here.
They're not. Okay. Over 1 million nurses quit. I've been an activist for about 55 years.
Why would I say Bobby's crazy?
Meet Z2 Data, the future of product risk management. The most comprehensive
I've been
solution
talking
of its
too
kind.
much about what I do for a job.
Some people think he's crazy because they haven't read any science.
Yeah, exactly,
They haven't read the war on ivermectin. They haven't read Ed Dowd's meticulously crafted and retrieved data on excess deaths due to probably the vaccine. Americans don't read.
The excess deaths is like one of my favorite arguments from the COVID deniers because so they used the argument when COVID first came out that COVID deaths were exaggerated because they were making claims that people died from COVID that actually had like cancer or died in a car accident and like all these other things, right? Because they were saying that hospitals were incentivized for COVID deaths. That's what they said, right? So they make the argument that other co-founders are being used to exaggerate COVID death numbers. But when you look into the excess deaths, which this woman is talking about, and I think it's the Cleveland Clinic that actually did it was a very small study that did the information that most of these people base their beliefs off of. The COVID excess deaths all have co-founders. That's why she said seems to be or could possibly be, whatever she just said. And so it's like insanely awesome that they both made the argument that co-founders is exaggerating COVID deaths, but then try to argue against co-founders being the reason for excess deaths. Like, this is the type of hypocrisy that I'm like, somewhere in there is an answer, or maybe there isn't. But even the Cleveland Clinic came out and was like, that's not what our information proved. That's the one doctor that was going around and giving these speeches using their data. They're like, we didn't co-found for this factor. We didn't co-found for this factor. It was done on a very small group of people. The vaccines that we did were done during this time, which was not the right time. Like the Cleveland Clinic was like, dude, don't use our data. It wasn't like the best data. It's pretty crazy.
And they don't investigate, and they just listen
no
to the
way.
media,
Is there
and
polio
they believe
in
whatever
NY?
the media says.
On August 5th, Bobby Jr. here released a video revealing that in 2014 he left a dead bear in Central Park as a prank. You know, a prank.
I am 69 years old, okay?
It's
My
a weird
first
thing.
anti-war protest was when I was 15. I stopped believing in the media and the federal government and all of the government lies when I was 15. But I highly recommend that you do not believe the media, the mainstream media. Don't believe the federal government. Don't believe the governments. They all lie many, many, many times, okay? I'm so tired of the two-party system.
But definitely listen to this lady. Definitely listen to this lady. This is where you should get all your facts and information from.
Harris is being coronated this week. There's been no election, and we are absolutely sick and tired of the Democrats and the Republicans.
Sorry.
Done. I will not vote.
Of course, I'm at the end of the stream, but I have Discord in the background. There we go. Sorry about that.
For either one, ever again. And I'm hoping that RFK leads a movement to create a third party, a new independent third party.
If there is no real conversation, there is no real solution.
Okay, so we're gonna end on this, but I've been saying this the whole time. RFK Jr. is going to become the face of MAGA. After Donald Trump loses in 2024 to Kamala Harris, if Donald Trump steps aside, if Donald Trump leaves, I firmly believe that Donald Trump and RFK have an agreement that RFK Jr. is going to take the reins of the MAGA Republican Party because he fits in so well with those people. I think that you're going to see the grift that Donald Trump had just escalate even further, but this time through RFK Jr. I believe people like Tulsi Gabbard are just setting themselves up for positions within the MAGA party. To be honest with you, I don't think J.D. Vance survives in MAGA. I think J.D. Vance ends up being more of nope, I disagree with myself. Because of his attachment to Peter Thiel, I'm going to say that J.D. Vance actually he might not fit in very well with MAGA Republicans. But I think that he's going to be forced to stay in the MAGA Republican Party because of Peter Thiel. I think that if you guys saw what happened with Elon Musk the other day, retweeting the dumb shit about alpha males being the only ones that should be allowed to vote and like low T people shouldn't be allowed. And then he like threw in the caveat of neurodivergent people because he has low T, but he's neurodivergent being allowed to vote. And that's all from apparently a previous conversation. Then he retweeted somebody else saying it. My belief there is that people like Peter Thiel, I would say even like a guy like Bill Gates probably is in line with the same mentality of a Peter Thiel, is that they want less regulation so that way they can use things like AI, so that way they can continue to use people as human fodder for their machines. I believe people like Peter Thiel and like-minded billionaires in the tech industry like him, like Elon Musk, want to be given free reign to create a society where they get to be what they would be claiming to be a benevolent overlord that continues to make advancements in technology. And I believe that's literally, you're seeing something along the lines of like an Elysium, where it's an attempt by the oligarchs to create a society where they get to be in control of it, and the lower class will just be the proletariat, will just be people that work and don't think too much about our situation because we're just happy to have jobs and be able to feed our families. That's currently what I believe. A frog chirping. Yeah, it's when I go to release it. Yeah, that's a good point. So anyways, that's what I think. I think that RFK Jr. is setting himself up because these people fit really well in MAGA. I think that some of these people will find their way out of it because it joined with MAGA. And for me, I think that's a good thing. I hope those people, like that guy before this guy, the older gentleman, he seemed like he probably had a pretty good head on his shoulders. He's probably a little disenchanted with the two-party system. I can agree with all of that stuff. I can agree that ranked choice voting needs to be a thing. I can agree that we need to have more than two parties representing us. I can agree that people need to allow people to get on the debate stage and debate no matter whether or not you have enough money or not. I think that dark money has to be gotten out of politics. I think that taxes should pay for multiple candidates to all stand on a stage and debate for the American people. But I 100% believe that with the current system that we have right now, that RFK Jr. will become the face of the MAGA Republican Party. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Crazy stuff happening today with the Georgia stuff. You know, my thoughts go out to, I hate to say thoughts and prayers, but, my empathy goes out to those families that lost kids. But I stand on the side of pushing for stronger legislation to hold parents responsible for kids being able to get a hold of firearms that they shouldn't be able to. I stand in support of red flag laws. I stand in support of, felons not being violent felons not being able to own guns, domestic violence, people that commit domestic violence acts, having their guns taken away. I stand in support of common sense gun laws. I will continue to stand in support of those common sense gun laws until we don't have children being murdered in high schools and other schools. It's insane, and it should stop, and there's no excuse for it. I think it's fucking obscene. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm thankful for all you guys that have been staying with the horizontal. I know that we don't have 400 people watching the show anymore because we're on the horizontal rather than on shorts. But I think that we're going to get better people this way. I think we're going to get people with better attention spans this way. I think that the shorts thing was great for growing the channel and getting discoverability out there. But I think it's time to move to the horizontal. I like doing the horizontal. I hope you guys like me doing the horizontal too. Appreciate you guys. If you want to join the channel, feel free to click the join button. It's 10 cents a day or $3 a month to support me in the channel so I can make a little bit of money off of what I do. You can also super chat. And you can also donate to my channel through PayPal or by buying merchandise off my website. So I'm super thankful for everything you guys do. If you don't have the money to financially support me, completely understand that shit. Been there, done that. I've been broke as fuck in my life. I still don't have a lot of money, but I've been there, so I understand. I love you guys anyways. Best thing you can do for me is to support my videos. I do cut these live streams up and then put them out as individuals for people that don't want to watch the whole show. Just if you guys can comment and share the videos, I would really appreciate that. That really helps support me and helps me become bigger and have a better voice. Also ends up with more people in chat to talk to you guys. So I really appreciate you guys. I know we ain't gonna agree on everything, guys. I know that some of the stuff I say, you guys are gonna be like, I don't support that, and I support you not supporting me. Just by the way, I support you not supporting all the things that I say. But I love you guys to death. I really do. I think the best of you guys. I want more people like you guys. So thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. Next live stream is Saturday. And then for the debate, September 10th, we're talking about having a collaboration between me and Gray Pill, which is probably going to have a bunch of Trump supporters on it, which would be hilarious. Which won't also work out well for me because I'll want to argue with people and instead we're going to have to watch the debate when I really just want to fucking tell people they're wrong. But that's fine. I'll try to keep my mouth shut. We'll see how that's going to be a really hard task, Herculean task for me to keep my mouth shut. All right, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Next live stream on Saturday at 5. Or I actually might do a long one. We'll see. I might jump on early. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.